Do it now.
Do it.
And we're live. Hello and welcome to the 80th episode of Game Theory Gang. I'm Maddie Allen with special guest Johnny Chaos and Tobiwan Hexobi and ChrispyMan of hexfire.io. Welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks again. Happy Tuesday, man. Happy Tuesday.
We got a bunch of people watching right off the bat, of course, because they're all excited to hear from our special guest. And so hit the like and subscribe button now. What are you waiting for?
Johnny.
How many to draw in?
Our ratio is pretty good. We got
I've been
30.
foreshadowing that whole time,
So-
foreshadow.
Okay, I'm confused. I thought we had it for a second. We had 35 watching and 34 likes, and I'm like, who's holding out? But now we're up to 40 watching and 35 likes. So 45 watching. We got 10 people that have yet to hit the like button.
They need
I'm
to
about ready to walk
validate
off.
it, or they'll
I'm
be
walking out of here.
slashed.
I'm out of here. That's
Yeah.
it. I'm gonna
You
shut down my
slashed.
validators. I'm gone.
That's right. We're gonna bring down the entire pulse chain if you don't hit the like button right now.
That's right. Hit the kill switch on my nooks.
So how we doing in this crab market, y'all?
Dude, we're doing better than Ben Armstrong. Jesus Christ on a
Sideways.
cracker. That guy is yikes.
We got a lot to talk about.
It's
Wah, wah.
no doubt.
You know, I said, hold your own keys, hold your own wife, and you won't have to put up a donation address.
hold your own Lambo keys, right? And
Hold
your own wife.
Lambo
Ooh, good
keys,
one.
that's important too.
Well,
Wow.
it's clear that he has got some mental health stuff going on. So that's
Yeah.
kind of the approach that I was taking. I listened to the unedited live stream from last night that was like
Oh.
38, 39 minutes, the last half of which he was talking to the cops. And the way that he was presenting himself to the police did not make me think that this was just an act. He was really in great distress. And yeah, like it's easy for people to come in and say like, why weren't you holding your own keys to your crypto? Why weren't you holding your own keys to your car? This and that, but he's got a story of being under duress. He's got a lot going on. So I personally wish him the best. And I mean, he did a live stream today that didn't seem like it would be advised by his lawyers either. And was talking about a lot of PTSD and other problems that he's got going on. And so I really hope that he gets the help and support that we all need. And maybe we aren't all shilling stuff that goes to zero or whatever, but I think this is what the crypto space looks like. These are the people that have risen to popularity because of whatever incentive structures or whatever. So what's your guys' take on the Ben Armstrong's X?
Well, Maddie, in my heart of hearts, I am with you on everything you said. I don't need to parrot it. I obviously
You don't have to agree with me.
No, but I do on a human level, absolutely. But because of the shit show it has become, and because he is choosing to put his life on display like he has, I feel like how can you not take some shots? It's like, I don't know. It's like I don't want to drag the guy, but it's methed up. It's super methed up, and I don't have a lisp. You know what I mean? It's like I've got friends that have been on those kind of drugs, and dude, I've seen this for a while, for like a minute with him, and he's got addictive behaviors and addictive history. And he's talking about on this stream that you were just mentioning from, I think it was earlier today, and he was explaining the circumstances from last night that he definitely has ADHD. He's been diagnosed with ADHD. He's going to get medicated for it. And I'm like, what doctor on earth, and you could speak to this better than I could, Maddie, would give a guy that's had addiction problems Adderall? It's like, it's pretty much meth. And I get that, if you really have ADHD, that it doesn't affect you in that way. But I know friends that have ADHD, and if they take more than they're prescribed, they look a lot like Ben.
People need structure and support and it doesn't always come in the form of medication. But I think that
It seemed like drug seeking behavior to me. It's like 'cause
as viewers, we don't know.
Mm.
I don't think we know. Myself, having worked in a substance abuse facility and given lots of drug tests randomly to people over the years, it's hard to tell the difference between somebody who's got PTSD and is on an adrenaline kick because they feel threatened versus somebody who's on drugs. Like, both have similar behaviors. I definitely think that he, it looks bad. And so hopefully he can get help and I mean, the jury's still out in terms of all the claims that he made, but he was like talking about the Houston Mafia. I mean,
yeah, it was out there.
I mean, that's
And
show
some
business,
senator,
right?
too.
Yeah. And then
Good.
on Twitter, he's trying to like tell people to stay out of his relationships and that he's got, that Cassie, whoever like the woman was that he cheated on his wife with, is going to stay in his life. And I get it. Yeah, that is personal stuff and that is things you work out. But I can't help but think, like, if I was his wife, I mean, at least, it's like, I don't care how close you were, if you were friends before it all happened, whatever. Bro, you can't just go straight from like cheating on your wife, doing drugs potentially with this other person and committing adultery, and then say, hey, I'm still going to hang out with her. I'm still going to talk to her. We're still going to be friends. I mean, that poor woman, God help her. Because I mean, that is a tough one. And that also sounds like an addict's behavior, that they expect other people to just be okay with like their wild ideas of how things ought to be. And I don't know. I want the best for him. I hope that on a human level, he works shit out and, it all gets resolved and he gets the help and support he needs, like you said. But on another level, it's like, if this is him actively acting out in an addictive manner and hurting other people, then there's part of me that's kind of like, fuck that guy, and part of me that wants to say karma's a bitch, right? And that it's coming home to roost.
Sure.
And he needs ego death, right? He needs ego death. He's not hit rock bottom. He's not. He's streaming it all, for Christ's sake. You know what I mean?
He's a narcissist. He's a classic. He is an absolute classic
Bingo.
narcissist. And you know how to spot a narcissist? It's everybody's fault but them. And the only common denominator in the equation is them. So if maybe this was not the show to put me on, but I don't really have any.
I mean,
I understand people have problems, but
we don't have to belabor this particular
No.
point.
But it's a hot topic, and it's like I think Johnny probably speaks for a lot of people that don't really have a lot of empathy for what is being shown. And
It's
I'm on the
definitely
fence. I go back
shocking.
and forth.
Yeah.
Right.
He's milking the attention and he's doing the outrage thing. For God's sake, he was copying Richard. He went out and got the Lambo. He got the stupid Louis Vuitton. He's trying to replicate the stuff that got Richard attention. BitBoy did not used to run around in Louis Vuitton stuff. He didn't brag about a Lambo. This shit all came out after Richard did it and had an effective increase in following. And all of a sudden he started mimicking that, right? And then, the being angry and getting up in people's faces and stuff. Oh, gee. I know somebody who sounds kind of hostile sometimes and has gotten a lot of attention for it, right? It works, right? It's effective. But stuff like the comments of, I made more millionaires than anybody else. No, Richard made more millionaires than anybody else. Ben,
Good point.
I'm prepared to discuss that tonight.
Yeah.
Hey, on this
ChrispyMan has
topic,
the data.
on this topic with Ben, listen, I don't know the man, and I don't know really any of the details going on. Yes, I see all the stuff, right? So I'll take the contrarian view that it's for him to work out, and give him the benefit of the doubt too, that maybe drugs. And I don't mean like what we consider negative drugs. Just drugs in general change your brain chemistry quite a bit. Maybe he's just not getting his omega 369. Maybe that's what the problem is, because I've seen some people my family that have been put on drugs,
You can't smoke
medications.
that, Crispy.
Well, you can. I mean,
Well, yeah.
it might not be any good. But the thing is I've seen people on things like that where it affects your brain quite a bit, and creates all sorts of erratic behavior you guys are describing too. So I don't know what's going on with the guy, but I will say this, like everybody else, I wish him well. And, if we could help him, we'd help him. But it's another guy on the internet going nuts. That's it.
Yeah. Well,
I think
well,
it shows the quality of people that have taken over the crypto industry and why we don't need to necessarily prop them up, but we need to replace them. That's how
good
I
point,
feel about
Johnny.
it.
Good
And
point.
I don't wish any harm. I don't wish any harm on anybody, and I understand that it's a person that's going through a rough spot. But you know what? He doesn't need to televise it, and it hurts more people than just him. And typical narcissistic behavior is he's not taking the consideration to what kind of what kind of damage this is going to do to his wife, her reputation, his children. Dad's running around with a gun and a mistress. Really? I mean, is that the kind of and to project your show as a family show? You know what you do as an adult? I'll tell you what you do as an adult. You call up the cops, you take your receipts, and you go get your shit back like an adult. That's what you do. You don't play teenager and thinking you're in Boys in the Hood when you're a 40 some odd year old man thinking you're just gonna go shoot it up in the streets. All right, that's dumb. What it was more of a publicity stunt than anything, and that's what he's been doing. He's been doing publicity stunts. The thing with Sam wasn't going to fight. That was not a fight thing. That was just making content for dramatic purposes. And the same thing, the guy, whether he's a gangster or whether he's just a person, he's not going to shoot somebody live on stream, right? So that was kind of his like safety net. The other thing was what did crack me up by this was, if you remember when Crypto Artie cornered him and said, "What do you think of HEX?" And he started going into this thing where he go, "What do I think of HEX? I'll tell you what I think of HEX. What do I think of HEX? I'll tell you what I think of HEX." And he started doing that, right? Because he was looking for his lie. And that's the same thing he did when it's who's in your car? Who's in my car? He started doing that same type of behavior. Okay. And look, I am not a fan of people in general that are disingenuous.
Oh, yeah.
And if you can't answer a straight question, you shouldn't be having a conversation. And that really frustrates me about people in general. So I still think that the space needs better, the space deserves better, and those should not be the people with 1.4 million followers. Okay. And and I'm going to leave it at that.
Yeah. This was the right show to bring Johnny on.
Absolutely.
Great summary. Great take.
Yep.
Yeah.
Vote with your feet, man. Vote with your feet.
Well, it's kind of like, you get the president you deserve, not necessarily the one you want. And it's,
I didn't deserve that, man. What do you
I don't think we deserved anything for the
We don't need to talk about presidents here.
Well, but I mean, it's because it's
Toby's
chosen
trying to
by
sow the seeds of discontent on the show.
I'm getting ready to announce.
The topic of Bit Boy.
I was going to.
Let me tell you.
The topic of presidents.
I was going to announce my candidacy.
You want to know about a president? Let me tell you about Reagan.
I'm running
for
the
the
governor.
last real president.
So, guys,
state near you.
Let's look at the crypto space in general. Who are the people in power in the crypto space? They were the people that came in 2017. They would literally be hired to talk about a coin and promote it once they had built their following up. And what would they do? Sometimes they wouldn't even prepare at all. So what do? They bring up the website on screen and they start reciting from the website, not knowing or having any knowledge about the crypto whatsoever. All they had knowledge of is that's where their paycheck was coming from. They say a few words, they grab a paycheck, and that became the business model of the crypto space, right? And it continued to be the business model of the crypto space. Where we came in, the Hexagon streamers, we had something to say. And that's why we're here. That's why we're still here, and that's why we're still preaching the principles of crypto. We're telling people to hold your own keys. You know, we're telling people to, you know, watch for the rug pulls and beware of centralized exchanges, and, you know, use audited code and all of these things, you know, because we have been wanting to improve the crypto space as a whole, not just shill another coin or stuff another coin down someone's throat so that you could get a paycheck. And that's what the industry has been. And I still say this industry deserves better. And I just don't see a point in propping people up that are just going to continue the same behaviors, because people do not change that much, right? When they get caught, they may backtrack and find another angle or another route, you know, but again, they are who they are. They present what they present. They have made a living on the blood of their followers. Okay. And I'm not just talking about Bill Boy. I'm talking about in general.
Oh yeah, there's a ton of them.
And the
Helio trades.
They had the followings that they do is because they were there when nobody else was doing it. That's it. That's the whole big thing. It's not because they brought value, maybe a little bit because they brought some entertainment, but they were talking about topics that were taboo and that not a lot of people were willing to talk about, and they were compensated greatly to do it. You know that Cassie was making $50,000 a week from her share of their sponsor of that state casino.
What?
Nice.
$50,000 a week. I'm in the wrong business, guys. I need to stop telling you the truth and start shilling you some casino shit so I can put money in my pocket, because I am wasting my damn time. This girl was making $50,000 a week with her portion.
We talk about staking. Where's our chat?
No, the steak.
Are we talking about OnlyFans? Like what are we talking about now?
Stake.com or something.
No,
I mean, I think
the sponsor of BitBoy was stake.com, which is a
gambling website,
a scummy crypto place.
Yeah.
So the money is, you know, using your following as a leverage, right, to gain sponsorship, to entice those sponsors and say, hey, I've got this many followers, I have this much reach, this is my demographic, pay me this much money and I'll say good things about you, right? And most of the, you know, they give their allocations in coins, and then maybe they pay them a little bit of ETH to go with it or whatever. But that literally is how the crypto space developed. And no wonder we have such a bad name. And now we've got all this radical bullshit happening, right? You know, and people like to pick at me. They're like, Johnny, well, you do some crazy shit. Yeah, to get you to pay attention. It doesn't mean I'm not sane. It means I do crazy shit to get your attention. There's a difference. Some of these people are just plain freaking nuts. And what is their ability? What is their real ability? Their ability is to hold your attention. Not because they're great traders, not because they know a lot about crypto even. Their knowledge of crypto is what crypto was before we moved into this space, which was basically a picture and a promise and a prayer, right? Not anything that had anything, just a recycling of narratives that never panned out. And you guys got to watch this right now. We're going to hear the AI narratives, okay? There were AI coins back in 2017, guys. Deep Brain Chain, Singular Net. They're still back there, okay? We're going to see
you got to go back and find them. Yeah.
I still got a bag of Deep Brain Chain, which is worth absolutely nothing. But you know, that's the whole thing. Supply chain. Hey, we need a coin for Dennis. Remember Denicoin?
Yes, I do. We need a coin for Linda. I remember that one too.
Dude, when I was trying to onboard a guy, and he took over the conversation to tell me about this coin I had to get into, and it was literally a coin from a local car dealership. No shit. I'm just like,
sounds promising. What? Tell me more.
It didn't go well, surprisingly. But you know, I think this speaks to the whole like outrage marketing thing that we all endured. and kind of beat to death processing, right? Because it's like there's pros and cons to it. Does it bring attention? Does it get eyeballs? Does it get
Sometimes
people
the wrong
talking about
attention.
it? Right. And it's a noise to signal ratio thing, right? And it's like the stuff like that's going on with BitBoy right now. Is it, it's the top of the show. We're talking about it. Everybody's talking about it. It's all over Twitter. It's all over YouTube. People are
Everybody
commenting
likes
on
a
it.
train wreck, man.
Right. It's like, it's reality TV.
Yeah.
Crypto Twitter style. So we could be watching, C-SPAN and learning about blockchain on, the equivalent of whatever that would be in the crypto space, maybe talking to Johnny or coming to the game theory gang and listening to some things that actually matter about, how to behave in this marketplace and how to make money and how to do it properly and now how to not get wrecked. But we're not as exciting as a gun-toting, methed up frickin', I don't even know, dude. It's like I want to go hard at him, but at the same time, I've got too big of a heart, and it's like I know he's a person. I feel so bad for his wife and his family, and it's just a tragedy all the way around. And for what, And it's like, but do we benefit? Maybe we benefit a little bit because people are like, what's this crazy shit going on Twitter? Oh wait, and that's someone's introduction to crypto. We don't know. We don't know how the next whale comes in to crypto, and then hope to God they find some people that actually teach them the right ways, which we've been, parroting for years now. But, we're C-SPAN compared to the real world, right?
We are more popular than the Brian Armstrong documentary. So
I don't know if I like being compared to C-SPAN.
That's true. I mean, if anything in the crypto space is C-SPAN, I'd say, Crispy, you might be the guy. Maybe.
Boring.
But substantive. It's like you got the numbers, you got the charts, you got the math, it's all backed up. And and like I famously said, maybe I glaze over a little bit sometimes. But
I
it's
quoted
the shit
you
need
this
to know.
week. Right? I quoted you this week because I'm trying to get an introduction done that Markable's going to build for me, and I said,
Nice.
I get this one guy that keeps giving me a hard time all the time about putting him to sleep. I need some more energy. That Toby guy is just heckling me, man.
I gotta give it to you a little, but it's like, and Johnny, it's like same thing. It's like, it's different strokes for different folks. There's different people that are going to.
Yeah, but Johnny's like American Gladiator or something, man.
Yeah, but there's obviously people that enjoy that and learn from that and understand like what's behind it. He's not being outrageous and crazy just to be outrageous and crazy. It's kind of like Richard saying, "Bring your heroes here to die." He's trying to save people. Johnny is a great example of what we ought to be doing. And if you're going to be outrageous or you're going to be hyperbolic or, just off the wall or whatever you want to call it, then do it for a good reason, right? It's like,
sometimes you gotta
what's
scream
like
at people to snap them out of the silliness, right?
Yeah, it's like what's Ben's angle? Like what's the thing that is he saving crypto by doing all this shit? No, he's all in his feelings and his addictive behaviors and whatever. That's not a good example. But then again, so like same shit with all the reality TV shows. Those are not what you want to aspire to be. You don't want your children to grow up to be on a fucking reality TV show.
Outside chick was a millionaire, right?
Yeah, right.
She goes on Dr. Phil, runs her mouth, and becomes a millionaire. And the problem is our society rewards negative behavior.
Bingo. Thank you.
That is the biggest thing, is our society tends to reward negative behavior. And it's just not, I don't, it's it activates our lizard brain, right? Everybody wants to watch a train wreck. Everybody wants to watch a fight. I used to be big into watching the UFC and you're like, yeah, hit him again. I hope that guy gets, and you start thinking to yourself in your head, you start thinking, though, what am I really thinking, though? I don't know either one of these guys. Why is it my brain wants to see people hurt, and you start thinking of that. And Lady Chaos is hilarious because she loves that show called Wipeout. Right?
Oh yeah.
And she'll run it back over and over again.
It's pretty funny, man.
Watch them just smack, and I'm like,
eating shit.
Yeah, girl, I said, you're cruel. It's like, that's a person. That person is actually in pain. She's like, but it's entertaining, and I'm like, but damn, So,
it's the Three Stooges, man. It's the Three Stooges.
As humans, we have that ingrained dark nature. And what we think is humorous or funny, or we crack jokes over, the Germans have a word for it, Schadenfreude or something like that.
Yeah. Yep.
Others pain, and it's looked on very differently here in America as it is. Everybody wants an epic fail video. YouTube is full of epic fail videos. Everybody wants to see somebody hit their head into a signpost or do a backflip and halfway break their neck. We got to think about what we're doing as humans. What we're entertaining, the thoughts that are going through our minds, what amuses us. There's got to be a better way, something more productive to do with our time than focusing on other people's pain.
Yep.
So how about that BitBoy?
So like another observation I would make is that he had 1.3 million followers and he's getting 60,000 views when he does something outrageous. That's 5% of his audience that's still watching. The 95%, they lost money, they lost interest, and they left. If you look at the HEX ecosystem, take this show, for example. Whenever we have a special guest, we're getting 50% of this subscriber count is the amount of views that's tuning in. And so that's a 10x difference in engagement. We've seen it. It's not, this show isn't special. Well, it is special in a lot of ways, but
It's very special.
There are
very special, Maddie.
This is an engagement that is due
You're
to
one
HEX,
of
and you
us.
see it across the HEX ecosystem because people have time locked into something that isn't just wrecking them in one go. It's not rug pulling them. It's leading to a type of engagement and a different type of behavior, a different type of relationship with crypto and with your future self.
Will you repeat that again? Because, well, you don't have to do the whole thing, but I think that's a point. I think that's like a huge point that the haters kind of glaze over. At least on the mining end, people who are mining are here for a long time. It changes your outlook. You have skin in the game. That's it, man. We've got skin in the game.
Yep.
There's no other
I'm
crypto
totally
with this
stuck.
kind of
When
engagement.
when everybody was selling the top, I was like, well, it's going to be a while before I'm going to get anybody out of this, so I might as well just stake it. So,
well, the trader mentality is a different vibe. You know what I mean? Because it's very cutthroat. It's like gambling. It's like I told you guys before. It's like I gambled for a living for a period of time. And it's, I didn't play poker though. I think poker is a different dynamic. I had some friends that played poker. I did blackjack and I did card counting. So to me, I had like kind of this hero complex. It's like that it was me against the casino, right? And it's like, so I didn't feel bad about it in any way. And then as time went on and I looked at it, it's like, well, where is the money that they're paying me out coming from? And it's from all the other poor saps that don't know what they're doing and they're playing the game badly and they're losing, right? A lot. I mean, that's why the casino, I mean, we went to Vegas. We see those buildings those didn't get built,
built by the losers.
They got built by the losers, man. It's like, that's a lot of money that came out of people that wrecked lives, that destroyed lives. And it's the same in crypto. And it's like, and that's what's unfortunate is, that's there, but it's part of it. So it's kind of one of those deals where it's like, I would love a utopian situation where, everybody could find a way to earn trustless yield and not have to, pump and dump shit to make money basically off of your fellow community members.
Hex.com.
Bingo, right? And it's like, but that's not the world we live in. So it's kind of this weird balancing act that we have to do as ethical human beings, in my opinion, to look at it for what it is. And it's like, I thought it was really funny. I think it's BB Trippin is his handle on Twitter, Dylan maybe from Famous. And he called out like me and a bunch of the other guys that do TA. And it was actually a pretty funny video. It's like, I got a good chuckle out of that. I actually went back and watched it a few times. And it was effective marketing, right? It's like he's trying to get people in there because it is a tasty proposition. Like, hey, you think you're good at trading? Come on over here and do it on our platform and get on the leaderboard. See who's got the best P&L. It's like, it's smart. But the thing is like Richard told us all, and I'm living proof of it. Traders, the vast majority lose. And that's what's going to happen. And, can we benefit by owning a piece of the casino? Yeah. Is that bad? I don't know.
The-
Is it bad to
the
own
So
thing
this is-
healthcare stock?
I-
Is it bad to own oil
I think-
stock? I don't know.
I think this is where, when you look at crypto, and I'll turn it over to you, Johnny, in a second. When you look at crypto, a case can be made that this is just mega arb, and it's all gambling. All of us are just speculating, right? But what I'd submit to you is this, and this I kind of got onto this idea more from RG3 and some others. Maybe Johnny said some things, you, Toby. This idea that there's something more at the end of this. We are just in the beginning phases. It's just a phase of a new information technology revolution. We can't know yet what's going to come out the other end. So yeah, in this period of time, maybe it's kind of rough. It's a lot of this still, but real utility will be developed as we go along. I just don't know how long it's going to take, guys. When we had our first phones, well, I date myself too. Yeah, I still have
30 years ago.
I still have the
Yeah.
rotary dial, right?
Oh, those.
But,
phones,
but,
yeah.
but even but listen, I mean, a lot of people even listening here don't realize that when some of us were growing up, you couldn't just take a picture of somebody. You didn't have a camera. Everybody's got a camera. And then even when we did have those cameras, and they were like 300 DPI or whatever, it was no use. There's nowhere to put them. What are you going to do with the damn thing, right? You had this picture. There's no use for it, right? Well, now not talk about porn. I'm talking about other stuff. But now, as we've gone along, now there's all sorts of uses. There's even commerce around things you wouldn't even have thought of. Like, who would have thought that pictures in that way, or digital pictures in that way, would be that. Anyways, my point is, we're still in the first inning. I think you say that, Johnny, a lot, and we're still the first couple innings.
Crypto hasn't done much. There's been a lot of narratives that didn't take off, didn't pan out. Like I said, the inventory tracking technology, the AI, the we're going to put power on the blockchain, right? Power ledger, right? They've had all these different narratives that didn't pan out because nobody was going to utilize it for that. But what can you do with crypto? You could program it. What can you do with it? You could program interest. And it's amazing that nobody had thought about doing that until Richard did it. And the reason he did it is because nobody freaking did it. It's one of the coolest use cases you could possibly have, is yield, and when you look at what Bitcoin was when everybody could mine it from their computer, right? And it was free to use software that anybody could do from their own home. And then it got commercialized, it got industrialized, it got institutionalized to where now only a few players get all the money. It's just like the government. Only a few players get all the money. And that's what Bitcoin has become. The players at the top get the money, and you are just a consumer. Now with HEX, because we changed the action, the action is no longer buy a miner and burn power. The action is wait, right? But that's too easy for people. That's the problem. So the problem is it's too easy. People are their struggles. They have learned to accept a certain amount of loss. The loss is expected, right? Something that just gains, it doesn't seem right. It feels uncomfortable for people, right? And, it's the same thing with leverage trading. You know why the stop losses are there? The stop losses are there to make you comfortable with justifying loss. That's why they're there.
Yep.
It is so, I only lost a little instead of losing the whole thing. So they're actually conditioning you to be comfortable with a certain amount of loss, and that certain amount of loss is expected. So you've got something like HEX. Yes, guys, the price goes up and down. The price goes up and down. People get bored. People get bored of winning. I once saw a Twilight Zone episode where there was this casino and everybody was pulling the handle, and every time they pulled the handle, they won. And you know what it was? It was a level of hell. That's what it was. Because people cannot take, there not being some kind of conflict or confrontation. Why do you think there are monsters in video games? You don't just walk to a square and wait for 5 minutes and get a bag of gold. Nope, that's not what you do in video games. You go, you fight the dragon, then you get the bag of gold. We are trained to have to fight that dragon. Without that dragon, it doesn't make sense to us. It's like, well, that doesn't make sense. I mean, you can stand on a street and try to hand out money. People will think it's fake.
I saw that TikTok.
Yeah, it's too easy.
That,
If you just try to hand people money, and you're a stranger, they won't take it from you. They'll think it's counterfeit.
Yep.
They'll think they're going to get in trouble. They think it's stolen. They ask you all. They're going to just ignore you, or there's some kind of scam, some kind of gimmick. But there are opportunities out there that people wouldn't even think of because it's too easy. Too easy.
Well, I think it goes back to how desperately the crypto community needs the real Richard Hart back, right? Because we need a leader like Richard was in those early days when we all found him, with the top hat guy, right? The top hat.
What's wrong with Decentralized?
Nobody paid attention to him?
No. Decentralized is good. I'm talking about as far as a voice, as far as a guidepost to what we're all, because it's so easy to get distracted, right? The little shiny shit is distracting. It's like, I've got more shit coins in my portfolio than I ever imagined I would. It's not a lot, but I've dabbled.
For shame.
And it's like, and I know, right? And I know plenty of other people that are maxis that I've talked to behind the scenes that have done the same stuff. And maybe it's the small amounts or larger amounts. It doesn't really matter. The fact of the matter is we've lost the plot. That as a community, I think a lot of people have lost the plot. The bigger issue that Richard was always trying to put forth is, let this thing do what it does and go change the world. Don't find another coin to ape into, to pump and dump and make a little more money. Okay, great. And then what do you do? It's like one of those games that he was talking about, how it's just a grind, right?
Game.
Just
the
grinding game.
Yeah.
So basically crypto is a grinding game, right? For how many people in this community is it a grinding game? How much of your time is spent building something or learning more about how important it is, self-sovereignty, decentralized finance, and what it can do to change the world, what it can do to stop war, what it can do to change climate issues, what it can do to stop hunger, like all of these things that
change man's relationship with money.
Yeah.
Right. That's it. Change the money, change the world. And it's like, but it's easy to get distracted with all the other stuff. And pretty much all of them have an angle. All of them have an angle. It's like, hey, it's like, check this out, and because they're trying to lure you into whatever it is that they've got cooking, right? And that's okay. That's life. I'm not disparaging any of those people that are doing that thing. And some could say the same about us. Oh, you're just trying to get us to pump your bags. No, it's like there's something bigger.
Bit of good, man. I can't sell any right now. If my bag pumped, I'd probably be crying because I can't move.
Yeah.
In fact, if y'all could do me a favor, I'm going to ask you very kindly not to buy any HEX from now until the end of October. And if you want to go ahead and dump, do it now, because I would like to get a really nice long position right at the end of October.
Yep.
So, that'd be great.
Well, look, there's been a lot of bad takes, in my opinion. And, I'm not scared to say it. I know I say things that are unpopular sometimes. But look, Richard's latest tweet where he told people how they can use the internet and use AI to give feedback to the government and make public comments about crypto taxes.
Yes,
that was an IRS thing, everybody. Yeah, so, but there's this flood of false reporting on Twitter. People saying, "Oh, this proves Richard is fighting the SEC." That tweet had nothing to do with the SEC.
No.
And so, bottom line is don't jump to conclusions, and read what you're going to talk about before you spread.
But cases are opportunities, right? Because if someone's bringing a case, then that gives you an opportunity to contest it. And that's what he was showing you, the steps of how to do that and how that can change rule of law. So it's
great.
And if you look at HEX News, did you see the HEX News post? It was an expansion on what he tweeted, which I found interesting that all of it wasn't tweeted. So the last part of what was in Hex News was more specifics about how to do those things, and it almost sounded like it wasn't Richard writing it. Like either he was doing the third person thing, or it was literally an add-on from his attorneys, from his legal team, like telling you specifically of how to do these things.
So
Nice.
the situation is actually very clear. There has been no service. Okay? There has been no service. And if you are being sued and you want to keep the attention on you for as long as possible, you could totally avoid it. In fact, it took us 2 years to serve CZ and get special dispensation and all that stuff. It took 2 years to actually get proper service. It was dismissed, rejected, and all kinds of stuff. That can go on for 2 years, guys. Okay?
Or longer.
Yeah. So first of all, that could go on for forever. And then that is based on whether or not the judge decides whether or not they have enough evidence to proceed. Or if the judge just looks at it and goes, dude, this is just like the last bullshit you brought me. No, I'm not going to drag this man in. If you didn't serve him, that's your problem. Sorry, you're not getting special dispensation. Okay? So there are no criminal charges. It's a civil action. You're nobody till somebody sues you. So, the problem is people are talking about the case and then even bringing lawyers in. Well, their job is to argue and have a case. Okay? So here's the fact. It could go on for forever. If you're afraid right now, just go ahead and tap out because you suck. Okay? Just tap out right now and quit because this is going to go on for years. I don't want to fucking hear you whining about it. I'm done. Okay?
And you hear that, everybody?
Or discussing about it that you do, not knowing or not having any information, just continues to keep this case that's a frivolous lawsuit in the spotlight and furthermore stirring up fear for people that don't understand. The brain will fill in what you don't understand with irrational fear. And that irrational fear is going to keep you from your goal, and you're not going to get anywhere dwelling on that irrational fear. And the reason I do the silly stuff that I do, where I was making fun and I drew out my piece of paper and I'm like, you take one unit and you move it over here. I don't know if you guys caught that or not, but the fact is, suing a calculator or suing a notebook with 2 columns on it makes absolutely no sense in any world that you live in. And that's exactly what they're talking about doing.
Yeah.
There is no stopping Hex. There is no stopping Pulse. There's 44,000 validators all over the world. I don't think they got enough agents or the permission to invade other countries to go knock on people's doors and make them shut off their machines. Okay? Hex is an immutable code that lives on the internet. Unless they shut the internet off, it still continues to run. And Richard's personally being sued or fined or a traffic ticket, which is about what the equivalent of it is, guys, is nothing. It has nothing to do with what's been built here and what we've been doing. Okay? And when they start attacking individuals for cheering for their favorite team, we got a serious problem. We got a serious human rights violation, guys. Because none of us are paid. None of us have ever been paid. We are talking about the things that we like openly and honestly in our own voice. And we are being pursued by the government that wants to overreach and force us to have attorneys because we want to talk about the things that we like. Where do we live exactly? Is this the United States of America? Are we democracy? No, we're a republic. But the point being, it's pretty lame. And guess what, guys? I'll tell you a little something else. Judges don't like government agencies either because the judge is the power. Do you think they're going to let some little twit come in and tell them how they want the laws written? Why do you think the SEC has loss after loss after loss? You are literally going to bet on an agency that has been shot down by every judge that they've been put in front of? You know what they're doing? I'll tell you what they're doing. They're trying to extort people that feel guilty and will pay fines because they're afraid that if they don't pay the fine, they'll find out the other stuff that they were up to. It's extortion. It's rent seeking. That's what it is. Richard's not done anything wrong, but he doesn't necessarily have to pick up the phone when they call. And he's not going to. He's going to make them work for it. because the longer it's out there, you know, the more people keep talking about it. Now, us as Hexicans, we got to stop this shit. We got to stop dwelling on it. We got to call it out for the ridiculousness that it is, like I always have. Everyone, you know, when everybody got their SEC
Preach.
papers, when everyone got their SEC papers, and I said, guys, this is not enforceable. This is not enforceable. RG got his paperwork, went to his attorney, paid $10,000. Guess what his attorney said? It's not enforceable. Okay? You can choose to cooperate and submit whatever any information that you have. You can choose to do that if you choose to do that, and that's fine. But they have no authority to do such. Okay? Now, Matty had a problem with his bank shutting down on him, but that was the bank. That was at the bank's discretion that they decided that they didn't want to deal with it. And they can do that because they're a company and they can choose what they do. Just like Big Pep's company said, well, you can't talk about crypto anymore. Well, if he wants his job there, then he's got to follow their rules. Okay?
Really?
Yeah.
But and that's why we don't see Big Pep now. But the fact is, everyone's like, oh no, Richard. Dude, I've been hearing Richard's going to jail for the past 2 years. And I am
longer than that. Longer than that. Yeah.
And it's a civil suit. Well, yeah. Well, I mean, no, when the SEC shit came out, right? You know, and everyone's going, oh, you Mexicans, you're all in trouble. No, we're not.
Well, Johnny, you would probably know this. Like, how many actions do they bring a week against people?
Oh,
like,
there was, actually, if you look up, corporations carry like 137 cases a month against them.
Right.
Okay. Open cases against large corporations, 137 cases a month. Okay.
But how many did the SEC bring out? I mean, like, how many suits?
I don't have the statistics on that, but literally they just blanket attacked everything, guys. They're suing.
Right. That's my point.
It's phishing, right? They're trying to shake that. They're going into a bar and they're shaking everybody down and trying to see if they got somebody that's guilty enough to pay them.
Yep.
That's what they're doing.
I've got a great example. Great example. There's a buddy of mine years ago, and we were out at a bar. It was toward last call, and he was trying to find a lovely lady to spend the remainder of the evening with. So he would go up to a girl, and he would talk to her for, like, I swear to you, it wasn't more than 2 seconds, and then I'd see him turn, and he would just stop mid-conversation and go to the next one. And then he did it again and again and again and again. And then finally, it's like I caught him, like, on his way to the next one. I'm like, what are you doing? He goes, it's a numbers game, man. He goes, as soon as I get one that seems interested, I'll keep talking to her.
Yeah. Don't waste your time.
Right.
I went to a talk, this All-In Summit, where Brian Armstrong was speaking to a group of people that were not crypto enthusiasts, but rather tech enthusiasts. And I was really impressed with how he framed much of his talk, exposing that the SEC is trying to basically go around the legislative process.
Yes.
They're trying to make laws through administrative action. And the courts are not in favor of that, because that's not constitutional. It's not part of the checks and balances. So that's why we see that the SEC failing so much in court, is because of the procedure, this capricious procedure that they're going through. And that's, I think, part of what was pointed out, here by Richard, is that there are administrative procedures in all parts of the government, whether it's the IRS or the SEC or any regulating body. But they still have to answer to the courts. And if you want to change the rules, you need
proper channels.
You need to go through the legislative branch. You need to go through the executive branch.
You cannot call an apple an orange in court. You have to prove that the apple was an orange in court. And you're not going to be able to do that. So you can say they're both fruits.
Oranges.
They're the same family, but they're not the same thing. Guess what? If you're the administrator over oranges, you have no jurisdiction over apples. Okay? And the reason why the Howey test was set was because it is such a small area of control that the SEC is supposed to be overlooking. But instead, they have turned into a revenue-seeking agency that is basically throwing a blanket net, and they're trying to shake down people in order to rent seek. That's it. That's all this is. It's rent seeking, and there's nothing. There's
Right.
nothing. There's
Well,
nothing to catch.
that was my pushback on Maddie. It's like, and not that I'm contesting you necessarily, but it's just like, do you think that they actually are trying to change laws, or do you think
No.
it's just money grab?
No, it's just a money grab.
To me, it seems like a money grab. It's like my buddy. It's like he only had to have one girl say yeah.
Yep.
You know, so if they throw out 15 crypto lawsuits a week,
numbers.
most of them are going to settle because they're not going to want to fight it, and then boom, they got the money. Or it ends up what was it, BlockFi, that they collected all that money and then they had a $50 million fee. Well, couldn't have that? And Richard said this. This is how I know about it. Wouldn't that have been better served going to the people that lost their fucking money?
Yeah.
It doesn't go to them.
If it's really about justice,
it's just like a tax, Toby. It's just like a tax, man. It's not. They're not protecting consumers. If anything, they're doing nothing but malicious harm. And like Maddie said, he used the term capricious.
Yep.
For the audience, the judge basically said, "Dude, you're making shit up. Get out of my courtroom. Next time, come back when you have something real." And if he stands in front of that judge again with the same bullshit, it's going to get tossed out. It's the boy who cried wolf, guys. It's the parable of the boy who cried wolf. Okay.
Well, it's a chilling effect, right?
It is a chilling
absolutely.
effect. The only damage we're doing is we're doing it to ourselves. We're doing it to ourselves by we're acting like they have any authority, which they do not.
Well, and
You hear me? You
yes.
have no authority, SEC. We are not securities. We never have been. Are you going to start trying to ban trading cards and comic books? Is that your next thing? Are you the Securities Exchange and Collectibles Commission?
Right, no doubt.
They're trying to leave out.
Are they coming after my Star Wars collection? Shit.
Yeah, are my toys now securities? Right.
Right.
Because look, so what they're doing is they're trying to shorten the sentences to get case law. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, expectation of profit. Let's leave out the solely from the work of others part. We're just saying, well, if you expect profit, then whatever. Okay. So I bought a toy. I put it on my wall. I expect it to go up in value. Does that make it a security? That's an expectation of profit. Okay. Well, you donate to a common pool. Okay. And we're gonna leave that alone. We're gonna stop right there. Donate to a common pool. Okay. So is the penny cup at a gas station a security? When somebody has a GoFundMe, is that a security because they're trying to cover their medical expenses because our Medicare sucks here? Right? We gonna count that as a security? Donation to a common pool. Hey guys, you want to go get a pizza? Let's all chip in on a pizza. Let's make a common pool to get slices of pizza. Let's divide that pizza based on the amount of money each of us put in. Is that a security?
Expectation of heartburn.
Yeah, you best go after Domino's. You best go after Pizza Hut. Okay?
Yeah.
So the reason why the Howey law is written as it is, where it says expectation of profit solely from the work of others, means that somebody is doing some work for you. And in HEX, nobody does work but you. So
you don't work for you
on its own.
That's right.
It's over. It's over right there. And I know what we get. Look, a lot of people have bad experience with the law. Okay, they've had some bad experience. Some cop gave you a ticket that you shouldn't have got, and you've got it in your head that these laws can just write whatever they want. You've seen corrupt politicians get away with bullshit and everything else. You know what? There's also murderers walking the street. You know why? Because there is reasonable doubt. Okay? It is very hard. The burden of proof lays on the prosecution. Okay? And they have absolutely no evidence. In fact, all of their bullshit is literally bullshit, and the court sees right through it. That's why they're losing. They can't even get on first base, and you think they're going to hit a home run.
Thank God for the
even if they
judicial
won,
branch.
even if they won, it's a
what
$12 million
percentage?
fine, and life goes on.
Right. Right.
If
Yeah,
they
but it's
even
like
got him in the courtroom,
right.
it's a $12 million fine, and life goes on. And people are like, "Oh, but he'll never do that because he can never talk about crypto again." Bullshit. They can ask for anything on paper.
Yep.
It does not mean that they're going to get it.
Right.
That is the negotiation tactic. Okay. This is
It
what
could
we do in the adult world. Okay.
It could literally
when you're
be
negotiating
mediated.
for a job, you say, I want 4 weeks vacation, $100,000. Okay. You're negotiating for a job. All right, fine. Well, we can't give you $100,000. Okay, fine. Give me the 5 weeks vacation. This is called negotiating contracts. All right.
Yep.
And that is what this type of litigation actually is, negotiating a contract of, we think you might be liable for this. And you're not found guilty in this type of case anyway. You are found what is called liable. That means, are you responsible for a certain amount of funds? And that's another thing. HEX was never a fund, guys. You can't mismanage funds that weren't funds. Okay? It was never customer funds. You went to Chuck E. Cheese. You put your dollar in the machine, you got tokens. The machine got your dollar, you got your tokens. Why you got those tokens? Well, that's between you and your tokens. That's not between you and Chuck E. Cheese. Chuck E. Cheese is not liable for what you do with your tokens now that you've got them. Okay? The money to win in that machine now belongs to Chuck E. Cheese. You sacrificed money? Guess what? That belongs to Chuck E. Cheese. That ain't your money. Whatever's sitting in those wallets, that ain't your money. It never was. You were to have no expectations of what that money does. It's not yours. It's not going to anything. He said it 5,000 times that it's not your money. But you're like, oh yeah, wink, wink. He doesn't mean it. He said exactly what he meant. And anybody that took it out of context, that's on you. Okay? You put your money in the machine, and my favorite one is this. People say, well, I didn't sign up for Richard to fight this court case. This sucks. The price is going to be down forever. Yes, you did. Did you sacrifice for freedom of speech and freedom of movement? I think you did. Because that's what you were sacrificing for. Freedom of speech and freedom of movement. By God, if Richard fights this, you donated to support that cause. Got it? You did sign up for it. You don't like the prices down? Too fucking bad. The point is, you did sign up for it. I hate it when people say, I didn't sign up for this. You did. You sacrificed
They
for
duped
charity,
themselves, Johnny.
You sacrificed for freedom of speech and freedom of movement. You are standing behind concepts when you made that statement. You voted with your money. It's no different than donating to a political campaign. And the best political representative we can have in the crypto space is Richard Hart. And we want him to make this space better because nobody else is doing it. Nobody else is doing it. Everybody else is trying to institutionalize the shit out of it. That's what they're trying to do. And they don't care. They don't care as long as it pumps their bag. Period. They will take that pump in the bag. They will take that institutionalization because that's all they care about is pumping their bag. You know what? You can get that institutionalization. You can get your bag pumped and you can exit. But you know what? Some of us here actually like the idea of having self-sovereignty, control of our funds, not being institutionalized, not being controlled by banks, not having our banks shut off, not having our credit cards muted.
Yeah.
To be able to have money that's outside the system, unlike the truckers, that got, people got their bank accounts shut off because they wanted to give truckers sandwich so they didn't starve. How much bullshit is that? What if you wanted to donate? What if you wanted to donate to Save the Children Fund or whatever, and then the bank shuts you off because nope, we don't approve of that.
Financial freedom isn't just getting rich. It's about having freedom to
Control.
transact. And, we're out here trying to pump people's delayed gratification more than anything, I think.
Well, yeah. And Manny, it's like back to your point
Facts,
about
Johnny.
the chill. Yeah,
Good
Johnny
speech.
is on fire
Crushing it.
always. God bless you. But back to your point about the chilling effect, Manny, it's like, I'm typically not like conspiratorially minded, but I don't know that this is a conspiracy so much.
No.
It's like, why would they want to chill the crypto markets?
Well, people would say, okay, so they can buy in or whatever. But the fact is, they don't want you to be free. They want to be in control.
To stop
They're trying to
innovation.
control what they can. Okay.
And it's probably
crush
little
what they
bits of
can.
both. It's probably little bits of both. It's like there probably are situations where they have people that are buying up, the dips. you know, because they're hedging their bet. It's like, think about like the big oil companies. It's like, did they invest in alternative
I'm gonna shoot
renewable
this in the foot
resources?
right now. I'm
Yep.
gonna shoot this in the foot right now.
Yep.
The government doesn't need crypto, guys. They've got a printer button. Okay.
They sell crypto.
The banks do not need crypto, guys. They've got the government that will give them money. Okay. So you can leave out the banks. You can leave out the government want crypto. They want to crush the competition because they do not want you to have an alternative. They're not interested in buying your bags. They're interested in controlling the space. And they are going to harm you. They get their ETFs. They're going to sell the price down on your head. Those things are not going in to benefit you. Those things are going in to crush the markets. That's what they're designed to do. Now, we you know, the thing is with Bitcoin, it has been institutionalized. You have two companies to make all the equipment. You have two major mining companies that are earning all the coins. So not only are they printing all the money, they're already making all the coins. So we are still just consumers when you try to follow that path of I want to be in the blue chips. Okay? You're still in that problem. And the reason why HEX has been so resisted by the rest of the crypto space, because that is the direction that the crypto space wants to take, is that institutionalization. And they don't care as long as it pumps their bag, as long as they get an exit. There's Chase showing you once again, that's the case study.
It's not your money.
Not your money. If you put your money in the bank, it ain't your money. You're worrying about what Richard's doing with the money that you spent.
Wow.
Guess what? If it goes in the bank, it ain't your money. They get to say what you can and can't spend your money on. Does that not sound like the primary use case for crypto is the fact that you have control over your own money and nobody can tell you whether or not you can spend it?
Was it Robert Kiyosaki that just tweeted about Citibank doing their own crypto?
Yeah.
Good luck with that. I'll never own a Citibank account ever.
Yeah, he did tweet about that.
Yeah.
They want to do
if they buy my bank,
settlement
I will switch banks.
Yeah, it's so. This is another reason we know that we need crypto is because banks are not becoming more free; they're becoming more restrictive. They are fighting that. There are more. There's more control and wars being fought with bankers than there are with soldiers these days is something I've said for a while. And it's because every single dollar that has to clear through a bank is every electronic dollar that already exists that's not in physical form is subject to increasing laws that are extrajudicial, that are not made with people's freedom in mind or even with people's well-being in mind. So this is more reasons why I think we need crypto.
Did you do that thing that I asked you about, Maddie?
I don't remember what you're
how many bills.
Oh, they are I'm still planning to do that, but yeah. Thanks for reminding me.
Yeah, so just to throw that out there, Maddie, hopefully Maddie puts this thing together. It's going to have mass chat GBT to do the math for us on it. But the fact is, guys, it takes like 1,000 years to print the money that's actually in circulation. Everybody's living on a digital unit of account anyway. So, you know, it's who has control over it. And the US dollar, you do not have control over it. You don't have the print button. You don't get to say who gets it and who doesn't. You know, and that's the power right there, is the fact that it would take, if everybody went to the bank tomorrow and said, I want my money, it would take 1,000 years to print it. So I hope you got 10 lifetimes to wait to get your money, because it doesn't exist. It does not exist in its physical form at all.
We got 220 people watching who are all caring about crypto and freedom and digging the conversation here with Johnny Chaos. Thanks for everybody tuning in. You know, last week we had Axis on. We had over 7,000 people tune in. I expect we'll have thousands on the replay here too. And so really appreciate everybody showing up in mass. It shows just what we were talking about earlier, that there's a difference between BitBoy and channels that they only have 5% engagement compared to subscriber count. And here we're getting like 50% viewership compared to subscriber account, means that and how far is Hex down from the top, and how far is it up from the bottom? It's like,
I want to talk about paper gains.
Please.
I want to talk about paper gains for a second.
Please.
I remember those.
So guys, I want to make it.
You still have them.
I want to make it very, very clear to you. Okay, if you were at the top and you looked at your account and you saw that you had X amount in there, you did not have X amount in there. Okay, you were not in a position to sell. If you were to have sold, and other people in your position were to have sold, you would have never been able to achieve that number. Okay, what do I mean by that? Same thing with the banks. If you went to the bank, there would be a bank run, guys. You can't get $20,000 out of your bank. You have to order it. And then when you go to order it, they ask you what you're going to do with it. Okay, now, the thing with cryptos is, really, guys, the market cap is about 10% of what the market cap shows. On any coin, guys, any coin. If you were to sell 10% of any coin, it would drive the price near zero. Okay.
Yeah.
So the people that took profit at the top, that has put the price where it is. Okay. People that took profit all the way down, they got less and less and less and less money. So the amount of money that was extracted is nowhere near the amount of money that everybody saw in their wallets. So you cannot beat yourself up about would have, could have, should have, because if you had, and other people like you would have also, it would have been a completely different outcome.
Facts.
And you don't really know what that outcome is. So don't get attached to the numbers that your portfolio says. Okay? The liquidity is never as big. The market cap is never as big. And what it comes down to is when you take profits, that's what your realized gains are. Do not beat yourself up about unrealized gains, okay? Because that is not a true number, right? So I hear people say, I've lost hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then you ask them, how much did you put in? We're like, well, $5,000. Like, so did you really lose hundreds of thousands of dollars? No, you lost $5,000. Wait, no, you didn't, because you haven't technically sold yet, but the price is down to $5,000. So people get this thing in their head that the paper gains are immediately achievable. Okay.
It's not your money, man.
And if you look, okay, any
Hex.
collectible. All right. I might look in a book and see that this collectible is worth $10,000. If I take it to the pawn shop, am I going to get $10,000 for it? Probably not. They're going to maybe give me $5,000. And that's what you're basically doing when you're looking at your unrealized gains. You're making an assessment. If you sold everything you had right now, that you would get that price. And you know from liquidity as a fact that there's slippage. You cannot take $10 million out if there's only $1 million in liquidity. Okay? Bank X cannot take $10 million out. They're stuck. They can't take it out. Now,
Isn't there like, I was surprised to see that there's like $15 million worth of liquidity in Hex.
I'm not, on the Pulse chain side?
It was reported on Go Pulse, so I would assume,
it's on the Pulse chain side. So yeah. But see, so here's
and BankX doesn't have Pulse Hex.
No, they don't have the Pulse side. So what they would have to do is they would have to transfer it over there. They could also borrow against it too. So we have tools now that you could borrow against it and not sell your back. But I'm not getting deep into that. But
we were down. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I mean, we were down to, I think, like $1 million of liquidity.
Yep.
Back around the beginning of the year when Hex reached its local low of 1.7 cents pre-fork. And so I think it's really incredible that any side, you're indicating it's the Pulse chain side, where there's $15 million of liquidity at the peak on day 656 when Hex was trading at over 50 cents. There was like $32 million worth of liquidity. I'm impressed that there's so much liquidity now.
Well, you know, liquidity can be deceptive too. Okay.
Tell me.
Liquidity can be deceptive too. Say I create 10 coins and I pair them up all 1-to-1 Pulse. And I have 10 million Pulse or $10 million in Pulse. Guess what? If I have $10 million of Pulse and I pair it up with my new coin that only I own and nobody else has any to sell, my 10 million becomes 20 million. Okay.
Boom.
And if I do it again and I make another coin and I pair that coin up with another 10 million Pulse, now I have $20 million in Pulse, but I've got $40 million on paper because I've got two coins because they're paired up 1-to-1. That is what the market cap would be, right? That's what the liquidity would be also. Okay. So, and no, the market cap can be even bigger because I pair them up with 1-to-1 Pulse, right? But I'm holding 40 million of them also. So whatever those are worth on top of the pairings would give me my market cap, and nobody can sell a single coin without bottoming that out to zero.
Right. Well, hey, I'll tell you this too. You know, I was working on something, Johnny, where I was trying to come up with my own market cap kind of heat map. Very difficult to do for the reasons you just stated, right? And so I followed this. I pulled the string all the way back. And so here's an idea. Don't know that this is right. It actually might piss some people off. Perhaps the sum total market cap of all of Pulse Chain right now is the net positive from Ethereum that's come over on the bridge.
Yeah,
perhaps
it is.
that is
Our
the
value
number.
comes from Ethereum, and I tried to tell
And-
people that wanted to say that Ethereum side needs to die, which is what they said until they edited it.
You don't tell it to die. It doesn't die.
It
There's no
doesn't
dying.
die because that's actually where our value comes from. The
Angles.
reason
die.
ETH Fair and ETHW didn't work is because there was no bridged in value.
Hmm.
Duh.
Well, and yeah, and I think somebody reported it today. I can't remember if it was Goldkey or Dipcatcher, but somebody had put a tweet out today just showing what the difference was. About 150 million positive, net positive in. Now there are probably some other paths now, like Coast. There, 0x Coast. Sorry, Manny. Yeah, but 0x Coast, and there's probably some other things that I don't know about that might be going on. But in general, right? But 150 million, right, is really what the value is.
But the
To your
value
point.
of tokens come from, now this, you have to listen to this very carefully, audience here. I know Crispy gets it, but this is it. The value of something comes from the ability to trade it for X amount of units of something else. Okay? That is where the value actually comes from. The ability to trade it for units of something else. And as long as somebody wants either of the things, they have that value. Whether it's 5 rocks for a seashell, 6 seashells for a turtle, whatever, okay? It doesn't matter. Value comes from the ability to trade one thing for X number of something else. Liquidity is that basic premise, and it can be manipulated, especially if you can create something out of thin air and pair it up with something that you already hold and give it an assigned value, even without ever selling a single one of those things. It creates that assigned value. And what Crispy said is correct. Our value comes from the Ethereum side because Ethereum can be bought on all exchanges, okay? All exchanges, not just a couple. And that is where our value comes from, is our pairing with Ethereum, our pairing with the wrapped Ethereum that is bridged over, and the stable coins that are bridged over that come from the Ethereum network. That is where the value from Pulse Chain comes from. If you were to cut off Ethereum, we now do have Coast. So we do have our own on and off ramp. But if we didn't have Coast, we would have no value coming in from external surface, and we would be a closed cell system. And it would be like back in the day, the coal camps would have like company money. So that money was only able to be spent in the coal camps at the local store.
That's essentially what we have today.
Yeah.
So one thing I wanted to throw in here while we got so many people watching, I only ask people for their help with something a couple times a year, really. Now is one of those times where if people can share this tweet with anyone who might want to buy my DeLorean, I think it would be a huge win for the community if it stayed in our community. Now, if it's okay with you guys, I'm going to just share a little bit of, for 30 seconds or a minute here on like why this vehicle is so special. Is not just because it's a kind of a metaphor for paying your future self and for time locking in HEX and in now with Pulse Chain too. But this is it's gonna sell to somebody in the DeLorean Midwest family if it doesn't sell to somebody in our crypto community, because this is in the top 5% best preserved DeLoreans in the world. It's runs perfectly with all the original parts on it. I've even got the original wheels that the original tires are from the factory that have not been worn down, are separate from what's on the car at the moment, but it comes with an extra set of original factory tires. So literally everything except the lining on the door is perfect from the factory. Basically, this has only 5,900 miles on it, and it's an automatic DeLorean from the original 1981 production. I'm asking $88,000 for it, that's the magic number in Back to the Future, but it's also the going price for this being in the top 5% best preserved. And so that comes from the guy who has worked on more DeLoreans than anybody in the world, is my friend here at the dealership in the DeLorean Midwest company, Michael McElhatton. He's the expert on these things. And so I'm going to give this community a week or two to put in their offers, and then if nobody in the crypto community wants to buy it with crypto or cash, then it'll go to somebody who is just who's lined up to buying DeLoreans anyway. And I will even deliver it for an extra $2,000. I'll deliver it anywhere in the US if you don't want to pick it up in Chicago or St. Louis. People retweeting this and hitting the like button really makes a difference, because it shows the support and gets the word out that somebody can buy this. One of the whales, somebody who's been doing really well in HEX or Pulse Chain. We've already got almost 13,000 views on this. So I appreciate anybody who helps to get the word out on that.
So we got our first
Super
little
cool
troll here in
car.
the comments. We've got Mr. Torin here saying that's bullshit. Haha, our value comes from Ethereum. Okay, smartass. How do you get into HEX? Huh? How do you get into HEX? Oh, well, first you buy Ethereum. Oh my God. First you buy Ethereum?
What?
Until we had Coast, guess what, guys? The only value that we had came from Ethereum. So before you run your mouth and think you're smart and want to be a little heckler, I'm going to call you out, whether you're a faceless troll or not. I'm not playing your stupid ass little games thinking you're bright.
Well, and look, a lot of people have been calling me out. The most popular comment, other than I would buy it if I had the money for the DeLorean, has been, "This must be a bottom signal," is what everybody's saying on Twitter. And
So
I
I'm not even going to explain it to you. He says,
and
"Oh well, I'm glad."
Dude, Manny wants
I'm
Manny
glad,
wants to
bud.
buy the dip. You know, it's like Super Hex Win is selling some
You
high
know
end
when
stuff.
someone says, "I'm
He's
not even going to
selling,
explain it to you,"
like a
it means they don't
Ducati
have
and
an
like a
explanation.
McLaren.
oh yeah, yeah. There's a lot
Well,
of
think
people
about it. It's
selling
like,
things to buy the dip, and for me, yeah, I want to write my book. I don't want to go back to my previous job. I want to keep working in the space of financial freedom, in getting the word out about paying your future self, and the mental health benefits that can come from having financial freedom to transact, all the things that we talk about here. The DeLorean has been an amazing talking piece, and I think I can continue the conversation even without having it in physical form. So yeah, it's been a huge joy to own, and I want it to go on to the next person who's gonna find it meaningful. So
Hey,
uh,
and I got to throw this out here too. You
please.
guys know what changed the ratios? The bridged in coins moving over and being put into the other side. That's what changes the ratios. Oh my God, imagine that. More value changing.
Johnny, you've got to be one of the greatest thought leaders when it comes to Hart's law. Tell us more about what people misunderstand when it comes to valuing crypto based on ratios, and how changing ratios changes value.
Well, it's just you have to understand the basic principle that basically with these dexes changed everything. Okay, on centralized exchanges, they were able to basically just give you credits, right? Because it's all on the back end. So there wasn't actually physical transfer of the coins. There isn't actually physical transfer of coins until you cash out. Okay, when you deposit, it goes into their wallets, not your coins, not your crypto. Okay. And then they give you a spreadsheet with a unit of account that they accredit you for it. It's much like the banking system. So the reason they're able to trade for no fees is because the coins aren't moving. The reason why FTX was able to run away with everybody's money is because everybody just basically had an IOU for the crypto that they held. They didn't actually hold the crypto. Okay. So what you're looking at is their front end. And yeah, it's
just numbers on a screen,
just numbers
basically,
on the
and
screen, right?
no
So
custody.
with the dexes, what you actually have is you have two cups for each pairing. Okay. And with like more complex systems, like the PHUX system, you have multiple cups that are ratioed to each other. And that gets I'm not even going to get into it, because that's just way too much for people to handle. But if you just think of two cups, basically you're able to take X amount out of this cup or put X amount in this cup and take out X amount out of this cup. Okay. And that is what your ratio is the amount of one thing that you trade for the other thing. Right. And then if this thing has a value pegged to something else that has a stable value, then that's what gives those things their ratio. So if two of these is equal to a quarter and two of these equals one of these, then you've got, this is a 50-cent piece now, you know? So that's how that works. Everything is related down the chain. But in order to have that value, you have to connect it with something that already has established value so that it can be traded for that thing, so that it then has value.
I think one way that people get confused about the difference between how a smart contract like Uniswap is such a big innovation compared to legacy finance is, in legacy finance, when you have a market maker, it's just big banks that are holding a certain percentage of the stocks of Apple stock, and they're making an agreement. Yeah, people can come and buy and sell but it's under their rules and
Yeah.
it's under their hours. And if the market dives more than 10%, normally you would say that's the true price of something, but they just turn off the servers if that happens on the stock market. In crypto,
and they do that on exchanges too. If there's a problem, they can freeze accounts on exchanges and they can turn things off. Automated market makers, they can't. They can change the front end. And actually, the reason why our Ethereum side is hurting so bad is because the average person cannot find it now. The average person cannot find it now. The only person that can find it now is Hexicans, and Hexicans are mostly using PulseX, and they're just buying it over there. And since it has a ratio, a bridged ratio, that's how it's just not totally collapsed. But the fact the average person can't just find it right now because they don't know what the other front end is.
Yeah. MetaMask, the swap button, which, most advanced users aren't using, but a lot of new people are, it doesn't find eHex anymore. Doesn't allow the trade to happen. The thing about a smart contract like Uniswap is that it's a standing offer where the seller is proving the price of something by putting up both sides of the trade with the V2 liquidity pools where you have to add both sides. You're pairing a stable coin or you're pairing Ethereum with a token, and you're proving to the market what the price of something is because you're letting other people come along and take either side of your trade. So if Hex wasn't really worth a third of a cent, then people, and you were charging way lower for it, people would come in and they would fix the ratio. The market would tell you the true price of these two things because it's a decentralized smart contract that is proving the price by saying you can take either side of the trade. And then the market decides.
It's an extended ledger. Okay. So ledger one is you take 1 unit from here and you put 1 unit over here. Okay. And then you have the smart contract ledger, which basically says the ratio, which means 2 of these equal 1 of these. So you've got an extended secondary ledger that says, that's how that works. And it keeps track. So as you take away from this side and you add to this side, it's just constantly moving, right?
Yeah.
And that's what it is. It's like a secondary ledger for ratio. And that is dependent on how much liquidity is added and how much liquidity is removed. And so instead of, it's still keeping track of units, but it's basically just an extension of the basic kind of ledger that says, you have this many units. It's keeping track of those two separate units and what their ratio is together.
The interchangeability of cryptos based on their liquidity pools is, and Johnny, taking it to the next level, I think you're saying that it's not just the ratio of one thing that's paired to something else, but it's the routing that can occur throughout the entire system that supports the price of something.
Johnny actually is a dev. He builds real world products. He problem solves for a living. Okay, Torin, buddy. And I can build an Astropha without knowing any programming language whatsoever because I understand how liquidity bonding works. Okay? Boom. And I'm not going to tell you any more about it because you don't want to hear about it. And I don't want to tell you about it because I don't want to help you.
I think that that a lot of people can, if they understand, as I believe you and I do, about liquidity, I think people can kind of figure out what's going on with certain games that are being played in the ecosystem. And look, I don't see the positive sum game of just running, liquidity games on people or kind of, it's one thing to create value out of nothing, but what's the underlying utility and what effect does it have on people? I think Hex is a positive sum game because of the long-term nature. You guys may agree.
I'm not interested in any anonymous founded coins.
Boom.
Especially when I understand liquidity. So I'm just not interested. I don't need it. I don't need anything. So done.
Nice. So, do you guys think that that we're at a bottom signal point here, or for me, I'm gonna just spoil
We're in a
it.
crab market.
I have no idea, because I don't know when they're going to turn the money printer back on. I think that they will turn the money printer back on at some point. I think things could get worse in crypto and in the economy. I think things could get better in crypto and the economy. But yeah, I mean, we typically do have a year of sideways in crypto after a year or two of going down, don't we?
Yep, crab market.
Well, we're only 212 days from the halving. So that's something to consider. And historically, that's when we start to get a bit of a push upward in anticipation of that. Then inevitably, we talked about this last week with Axis. Get a little drawback, and then we've got the parabolic run. So now the question becomes, do you want Bitcoin or do you want the better Bitcoin, right? Do you want something that you can lock up and earn more of it just for the sake of taking it away from the liquid supply temporarily? Or do you want to just pray that Bitcoin maybe gets you a 2 or 3x on the next bull? It's to each their own. I think people know where my chips are stacked. And everyone needs to do their due diligence and decide, where they want to invest. That's not entirely what this is about. It's about understanding the dynamics within the system. That's what Johnny's trying to articulate. We got, guys like Torin, he had an opportunity to articulate his point. I asked him to. Didn't seem like he really wanted to do that. And I think you the first thing you said was troll in the chat. So I think that's kind of what you have. There's trolls that are funny. There's trolls that actually elicit good conversation, and then there are trolls that don't bring value. So it's like, I would encourage you in your timeout, Torin, to bring some value or piss off.
What I've discovered, look, we've been here, Toby. Every person that has come in with those hex maxis don't want us to win, those evil maxis, and have tried to separate the community. They're gone in 3 months. And in fact, I don't think they're gone at all.
Right.
I think we've had 24 projects that have tried the same strategy, and I think it's all the same people. You notice how many anonymous accounts were created in July of 2023 that already bought up X amount of supply, and they already planned their next little hit. And, you got anonymous people with no followers, no credibility whatsoever, running around trying to discredit people that have been spending their time in this space trying to help others understand how this stuff functions and works, right? And it works. It's the same thing like the chilling effect. If you get enough trolls together and they start shouting seeds of doubt, people are doubtful. People are like default fear. So if you get enough people afraid,
right,
those guys are out to get you. They're out to get you. They're out to get you. Then guess what? They start believing it. Little seeds in the back of their head. What if they are out to get me? And they use that to exploit. And you know what? We have had this all through Hex. The things come out, they last for 3 months, they die off, and everybody ends up splitting the community. And Hexy was one. Hexy was terrible, man. We lost half our damn community to that one. We've had the Hex Max, we've had the Hourglass, we had all this garbage, we've had all these Reflex tokens, we've had Hex 2X, we had Axion. Guess what, guys? Where is any of it now? We try to speak to you from a voice of experience and try to help people. And you know what? If it lasts for 3 months, maybe I'll take a second look at it. But you know what? This stuff does not generally last. 99% of crypto fails. 99% of brand new business startups fail. It's tough, right? And Hex is the first thing that has really come along that has been actually truly special. Even Pulse is not really special. It's a fork of Ethereum. It was a necessary adjustment to be made so that we had an alternative means to actually be able to use Hex and its functionality as it was designed to use. So,
I like Pulse.
Of course you
better
like
than
both.
Ethereum.
Well, yeah, because you don't like getting your head dumped on, and you like lower fees. Why would you
Facts.
say?
Facts. I think he's coming back. He had a delay in his audio, probably.
But anyway, we've had this stuff happen over and over and over again. And I don't care what you guys participate in, but you know what? If you're going to come at me and you're going to yell at me and tell me I don't know what I'm talking about, well, you're going to get it back.
So
you know what? It usually takes 2 years for people to catch up with me anyway.
facts. So, what do we think about Mt. Gox delaying their 142,000 Bitcoin dumpage for another year into October 2024? How does that affect things? Nothing Burger.
Nothing burger. I don't know that they're going to release then.
Do they even have the coins?
Like kind of bans crypto all over again.
Why do they keep
That's
delaying
another
it?
thing too. You know, people get upset and they're like, SEC's coming after everything. You know what? China has been banning crypto every 6 months. You know, and 1 year it was like every other month it was banned. It was unbanned. It's banned. It's unbanned. It's unbanned. It's banned. It's unbanned. They were running over. They took out miners and ran them over with steamrollers. Oh, look, it's really happening this time, guys. So, you know, it's all fear. It's all fear porn, guys. It's all freaking fear porn. You know, you cannot lose all your money. You can only lose the money that you put in. If you are in a position where you are using money that you don't need right now to send to your future self, you should be fine. You should not be over leveraged. You should not have your last dollar and everything you own in the crypto to begin with. You shouldn't be in a situation where you have to worry about these things. The more heavy you leverage, the more money you dump in, the more fearful you're going to be. And, you know, it doesn't do you any good to have more money in if you cannot afford to hold your position. That's
Right.
what's important.
But what do you mean by hold your position? That means being able to stay 3, 4, 10 years, right?
At least 2 years, at least 3 years. You have to be able to make it through at least one cycle, you know? So
Absolutely. And I heard that TShares are only $100 on Ethereum right now.
No, they're up over 100 now.
That's for a 1 day T-share. But if you get the discount, go 15 years, that makes them like 30 or 40 bucks a pop. Not bad, eh?
No, so here's the thing with staking, and I know Maddie's big on the delayed gratification and the 555, and everybody wants to do the max, right? What's optimal? Well, first of all, what's optimal is what you can honor. So it does you absolutely no good to have a 555 stake if you don't intend to leave it there for that amount of time, because the truth engine and the programming undoes your progress. So you set terms you can honor and honor the terms you set. If you can't, then don't set any terms. I don't have a problem with people that don't want to stake. I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with people that don't want to commit to 15 years. That's a long time. You know, if the whole design of HEX and the reason why you set your terms is so that you can set your terms. Are you setting it up as a retirement plan? Are you setting it up as a passive income? Are you just buying it because you hope the price goes up, right? What is your purpose? It's designed so that you can utilize it in the way that fits your needs, not what everybody else wants you to do, not what's popular, not what's optimal, what works for you. Those options are yours, and you have to choose the options as you see fit, and no one can tell you how to do that. And it's great to get the bonuses, but guess what? You know, with the big payday bonus, everybody that staked before big payday, if you end 1 day early,
1 hour early,
you lose all of your big payday bonus.
Yep.
So, you know, you're better off having a stake that doesn't have a big payday bonus, because if you serve 50%, you know, at least you get your principal back, right? But the stuff with the big payday bonus, no, that gets sent out to the future. You're not going to get that. If you are in 1 day early, if you stake for 15 years, guess what? You're here for 15 years or you're going to forfeit your big payday bonus. Period.
That's right.
Cool thing is we're 1/3 the way through our 15-year stakes. We're getting there. We're getting close. We got to get 5 years. We're almost 4 years. Next year we'll be 1/3 the way through our 15-year stakes. How fast?
Blink of an eye.
12 months ago.
It's cruising, man. I tell you, I just had a birthday. It sucks.
Happy birthday, Toby.
Happy birthday,
time
Toby.
is flying. But hey, something about staking. What do you guys think, because of the psychological effects of people that had a long staking ladder and then them watching their crypto being locked up, or being someone like myself that was hanging on for the Pulse chain copy and did not take any profits at the top and threw it out another 5 years? How do you think that psychology is going to affect future staking behavior?
But you were never in a position to actually collect that because you had already set the terms.
I had 20 million HEX liquid at the top.
It's chasing a ghost. You were liquid?
I had 20 million liquid. I had 20 million that came out right around my birthday, which was around the all-time high. And
well, that's different. That's different than looking at your stakes. It's like
yeah.
I can go through my shop.
I'm saying future staking behavior. So like, are people going to start looking and maybe trying to time the market and say, okay, instead of doing a staking ladder that's quarterly, just consistently, maybe structure it to where it's only going to come out, or the bigger chunks are going to come out when you think we're in a bull run again. So every 4 years, let's say.
I was thinking about this today. Let me weigh in, and then I want to hear what Johnny has to say about it.
Yeah, me too.
I think that what's going to happen is it's going to be just like it was before, when HEX in the early days would go up 10x and then drop 80% and then go up and then drop. And what's going to happen in the future is you're going to shake out all the people who sell on a dip, and you're going to shake out all the people who sell on a 2x. And so you're going to get another probably building situation where there's a huge discrepancy between the people holding liquid and the people who are staking long. And then at some point in the future, you're going to have another moment where HEX becomes incredibly scarce because people have cashed out on a rip or a dip.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the 7.5 year mark. I'm excited about that because that is when a lot of these big payday stakes are going to be EES'd, and we're going to get those payouts at the 7 point. So I've got some stakes at 8 years that, somebody's going to come in at that 7.5 year mark, and they're going to stake like a day before and get some ridiculous ass payouts.
Yep.
And I mean, of course, if they're not in now, they're going to miss out all the way up to that point. But I mean, they're going to stake for a day and they're going to get some serious payouts because people are not designed. We've been conditioned to buy now, pay later, with like the credit cards and finance everything, and everything happens immediately, right? Everybody wants something immediate. And that's how we're just kind of programmed. And, something for 15 years, for the average person nowadays, it just seems, too far away, right? I guess as you get older, you realize how quickly time moves. It's not that big as big of a deal. But for the younger people to try to even imagine where you're going to be, they'll ask kids where are you going to be in 5 years from now. They don't have a clue. They don't know where they're going to be a month from now. It's really hard to get that psychological behavior. So the other thing is when people enter, they enter from their entry point. Okay. So if you're a person and you go to a store all the time, right? And you're used to buying something for a certain price. All right. And you go in the next day and it's twice as much, right? You're going to be like, oh my God, this is drastic. I'm not going to pay that. Right. But somebody comes in off the street. That's the first time they saw the item, and that becomes their normal. So as far as they're concerned, it's always been that price. Okay. So they're coming in from their perspective, right? And people don't understand that. So the new batch of people do not have your pain. They do not suffer from your pain. They don't feel your loss. If it goes up 1%, they're excited from their entry point because it went up, right? So they're going to have a completely the new people that do come in, and what that's going to take is that's going to take some green candles. We see that all over Pulse Chain right now. Green candles, everybody chases it. I'm not going to get into all that, but that's the fact. You see the power of the green candles. Once we start getting green candles, we're going to have the same effect. But you know what? The only people that know about stuff that is on Pulse Chain right now is just the Hexicans playing around. That's who's screwing around with Pulse Chain, just the Hexicans. The people on ETH, they're going to be hard pressed to change their brand until they're forced to. Okay, until things become outrageous for them again and they're forced to. Then they might be looking at some other options, but it's not likely that people are so quick to change their brands. They're not quick to change their teams. You know, if your team loses or has a bad season, you don't just burn your jersey, right? People are fans of teams for years and years and years, you know.
Facts.
You know, so, and Hex is the same thing, you know. People are going to stick with what they're familiar with. That's what they do. They don't like change. People are change resistant. We got to remember that. People are highly, highly change resistant.
I would also point out that ETH gas fees have been really low the past few days.
Yep.
On Sunday, I did a bunch of transactions, and I don't know how long this will last, but if people have hex stakes that have been bleeding out because they didn't want to pay hundreds of dollars in gas fees, getting Gwei at 6 or 8, as I was the past couple of days, is a pretty incredible deal that probably won't stick around. I'm not the oracle of gas fees, but historically we haven't seen this since January.
Simply creating a viable code will cause change. Creating a viable alternative by itself will cause change because it creates competition, period. Do you think that ETH 2.0 would have came out if Richard didn't announce that he was making Pulse Chain?
No.
And we
I don't
did
think it
not
would have
think
happened
that
that
ETH
fast.
2.0 was coming out whatsoever, which is why we started with a fork of BSC, which people don't understand that, first of all, at that point in time, PSC was the better alternative. And then when ETH 2.0 actually got on the ball and got out and it worked, that's when the code got changed. Why? Because we moved to the better available basis, the better available product, which probably would not have happened had there not been an announcement of Pulse, because they were in absolutely no hurry whatsoever to get that to market. Same thing will happen with the gas fees. Okay. When there is a viable alternative and option, that is why you're going to see gas fee reduction. That's why you're going to see that people actually are going to take advantage of that, right? When it becomes a necessity, right? People will go out of their way to avoid conflict and change, okay, until they're forced into a position where they have to.
Ethereans and Hexicans alike. Well, yeah, I think that definitely doing $2 swaps, $3 swaps on ETH. I don't see that lasting if the activity picks up. I know it's been partially due to like certain layer 2 stuff taking off, but
if
a lot of
people
that
start leaving Ethereum for Pulse Chain and Pulse Chain starts getting more volume, you better believe ETH will make some adjustments.
Ooh,
That's
good
what
prediction.
It's going to take. That's what it's going to take, because the crypto space is very comfortable with getting away with doing the minimal amount possible. All Richard had to come in to do was something. That is the sadness of the crypto space. The crypto space has been a promise, a story, a narrative, and a few green candles, and that's all people need. A white paper and a website. you know?
Johnny, going back to something you said about, it being so hard to buy EHEX and the fact that it still has a value is partially due to like the liquidity bonding.
Yeah.
If you were, let's say, like the biggest actor in the Hex ecosystem, is there something that you would do in order to maximize the value for Hex holders?
Yeah. So Richard is kind of taking this as an approach of hands off. Okay. And it appears, how to explain this? It appears that the powers that be wanted to give people the idea that their copied coins would not only do as well, but twice as good over on the new chain that was created. So liquidity reflects as such. It could have been set anywhere. That's where it has fallen, because that's where it has been decided that where it was going to be. Okay. So I don't think that was the best play. I think that was kind of a poor judgment decision, because what that created was actually division in the community. That created an argument between which chain is better. That created all this carnage. It created people chasing liquidity. It created a lot of problems. And because of all those problems, that's why I made an assessment that the optimal play would have been to pair it 1-to-1 with large liquidity bonding, because it would have, one, diluted the pools, that would have diluted the liquidity chasing. It would have created a universal conduit between chains. And the fact is that this can still be actually corrected, because there are things that can be changed. And there are things that are outside our power that we can't do. The Pulse X is basically has a master chef program. So the liquidity farms are set up by the master chef contract, okay, and whoever operates that. And if I were that person and I wanted to set it back to 1-to-1, I could do that simply by removing the pulse side hex and pulse pairing, and replace it with the EHEX pulse pairing, and everybody would just shuffle the other way because of the way the liquidity would be. So you have to keep in mind that HEX is an immutable smart contract that doesn't change, and it is something that earns yield based on its rules. But things like liquidity bonding and the master chef can change things at any time. So not to get too comfortable with the way you think things are going to go, because those things can change, and they can change very rapidly.
Yeah, yeah.
On Johnny's points.
That would certainly be an interesting move. How would it be affected though by like BankX and what the God Whale did in terms of like giving too much EHEX to like some dumper scammers?
Well, they're in the way right now they could just take out a loan, and they could get 40% of the money. They could cash out 40% of the money, and they wouldn't actually have to lose their tokens. That would be actually better for them to use a platform like that than it would be to actually sell, right? If they were looking for a cash out option.
Are you talking about them using something like some sort of like liquid loans thing for HEX
or liquid loans? Yep. They could use that and remove. They could cash out, and then they wouldn't care if they got liquidated because they got their money anyway, right? But if they don't get liquidated, guess what? You still don't got rid of them. So,
but couldn't they cash out? Couldn't they cash out more if there was a pairing? Or would the pairing be at the current ratio, or would it be at a 1-to-1 ratio?
If it was at a 1-to-1 ratio, okay. So what you would do if you wanted to create that option, you would wait for the market to change the ratio by incentivizing them in that particular direction, then you would set high volume for the one-to-one pair, okay, with like 10 billion coins and 10 billion coins. But you got to keep in mind that is not its ratio to exit. That's its ratio between chains. So all you could do is move from one chain to the other chain. You get it?
Yeah, but then if you had paired p-hex with anything, then e-hex could trade in its place.
Yes.
For that value, so the values would come together. The dollar values would meet in the middle.
But you can bring pulse side down to make hex even, and then you've got no difference there. You would actually bring the pulse side would bring down. I don't think the hex side is going lower.
Yeah,
the pulse side would come down to meet in the middle,
and the BankX guys would get more.
You would get a meet in the middle kind of scenario.
The BankX guys would get to cash out more in that case, I think.
But what they would do anyway, if they wanted to right now, what they would do is they just migrate, because you're not going to be able to sell on the Ethereum side. You get $1 million and you won't even get a whole $1 million. Okay. So most likely, and you're not, people get this idea in their head that they're safe on Pulse Chain because of BankX. They had that idea. That is like equivalent of saying that, you're going to go outside of your house and you're going to put a cardboard box over your head and you're going to be safe from the storm. All this stuff is interconnected. So you're not going to be safe regardless. There's no solution for that problem. They either exit, or they hold their position and they just start to learn to take the yield. Personally, I don't know why they would want to exit when they can make like $20,000 a month.
Why would you think the incentives are for them to not sell, for them to mine HEX, and maybe even if there was a 1-to-1 ratio, they would still be having the same effect on the system of selling practically the same amount.
Impact and same effect, because it's going to take everything down with it, no matter how you do it. You're not, there's no place in the ecosystem that you can hide from these situations. You can't just pick one coin and think, okay, well, this one's not going to be affected because they're all bonded together.
Yeah.
Now the ratios can change, but they're still all bonded together based on those ratios and how large those pools are.
Well, thanks for answering my question. That's useful.
Hey, Johnny, offhand, do you happen to know how much HEX is being consumed each month? So what I mean by that is we have quite a bit of HEX that comes out every month.
Mm-hmm.
You know, on both chains. I haven't run these numbers, but I mean, not all of it gets restaked or remined. Some of it stays liquid. Well, I guess, of course, some of it stays liquid, but some of it makes its way to the marketplace. So I'm wondering, you know, how much goes to the marketplace anyways. I guess the volumes would tell us that. I mean, I don't know. You know, I get that if any of us who had $1 billion, which I don't, by the way, had $1 billion HEX could affect the system by doing a single transaction. But, you know, I just wonder really how much of a worry is this? I mean, they push the price against themselves.
The price goes down for a day and then it goes back up. That's
or an hour. Or an hour, man. Yeah. I mean, if I see a 99% drop, I know what I'm doing, right? I mean, so.
Who would buy if BankX dumped?
Yeah, I mean, like 100%.
So let me see. They dump it to zero. Okay, wait a minute. You mean I can buy all of their HEX at 0.00000001? So I can put $1,000 in and buy all of their HEX if they drive it to zero, and then I can have the 800 million HEX. Okay, where's the problem here?
Yeah, I want 800. Yeah.
And then they don't have that much now, but I mean, so they walk off with $1 million, and that $1 million goes right back in, and then they no longer have that position ever again. So that's not to their benefit at all. To their benefit is to learn to use the program how it's designed, which is basically like mining, which they can take out $20,000 a month. You know, a lot of people were set up to do just that. That's the whole point of the staking ladder.
I'm gonna share a secret that you just shared there, Johnny. Withdraw small amounts over a long period of time.
Yep.
Right. That's something Richard always told us anyways. And it's not like it's like I had a private conversation. He said it on stream to thousands, tens of thousands of people, that you ought to be looking for a ladder and you ought to skim and you should be looking for the good opportunities and your ladder so you have that opportunity and just go on with your life, right? Go focus on doing good stuff.
Yeah, the other thing people don't take into consideration is because we're kind of in a bubble, right? Ethereum is the shopping mall. We are building a new mall. Okay. They're like, they've got all of the apps. Everything is built over there. We are forking apps onto our network that are exclusive to us. What are you staring weird at, Maddie? You got this very concerned look.
I am I was adding moderators.
Oh. So there are things like, I don't know, limit orders. Those are kind of helpful for like people that want to exit or provide positions. Range liquidity pools, that is kind of a helpful thing to have. Okay. There are other ways of exiting. And again, I don't really want to, because I know there's money floating out there, I don't really want to give anybody any ideas. But there are better ways of doing things, and to hit the sell button is a pleb move, and it's just going to last. It's not going to last. They get to walk away with their $1 million, and who cares? When Hex launched, we had 500 million a day. 500 million a day hit the market, guys. That could have been sold. In fact, there were some people exploiting it, and that's why we ended up with the market matching situation. It's because we had people exploiting it and running the price down on everybody else and devaluing what everybody else was holding. Okay. So
that's why we can't have nice things.
That's why we can't have nice things, because whatever there is, there's going to be people that are going to exploit it, right?
Yeah.
The thing is, what hurts us now is we've been down for so long. We've had all of these different things to put money in. Okay. And whether they're good, whether they're bad, whatever, it's another option. And so you have a very limited amount of capital, a very limited amount of users, and they're spreading their capital amongst different things. You know, the whole ecosystem in itself became a competition. People were betting on one winning horse. They weren't looking at the fact that most of the system is going to move together. Everybody wanted to fight, oh, this one's this one. And people were jumping back from coin to coin. You had all this carnage going on, right? And, if we could have just settled on, look, guys, it really doesn't matter, just pick something in the ecosystem and all pretty much going to move together. Doesn't make a difference whether you have 2 quarters or 1 50-cent piece, or if you have $1 or 4 quarters. Does it really make a difference? It's all going to move together, So,
yeah, I think you're right about that for the near future, anyways. I mean, it's pretty obvious that that's what happens, and we knew this ahead of time, so it's not like it's a big secret. But yeah, it's actually don't anybody listening, don't take it the wrong way. I like it when people give me more yield. So I mean, I'm talking about staking Hex 6 times a week, and talking about TShares and putting out content, and I'm telling as many people as I can, but I'm not ashamed to say that if they don't want to, that's their decision. But I mean, I see what's happening with the T-share rate and the payouts, and I see what's happening with the number of T-shares, and every day my APY goes up.
What's happening?
It goes up, right? Well, and to describe that for you, Maddie, T-share rate goes up every day, right? T-share count is going down every day, and our
and there's a happening every 2.5 years.
Yeah, and the average stake length has gone way down. Not what's residual on the system, but what people are doing. They're really focusing on 1 to 2 years. So if you stake out a couple of years, you beat the shorties, and if you stake out 6 years, you beat the OGs now, in terms of what you can get for T-shares.
One of those psychological effects is perception of value that causes a lot of issues, right? So, it's not hard to move something 1/1,000,000th of a cent, right? So when we were at these low prices, things are all screwed up anyway. The ratios are screwed up. The prices are screwed up. The volatility is screwed up. Everything's screwed up when you're at these super, super low price points.
Mhm.
As things get higher price points, you'll probably end up with a scenario where, yeah, you might have one hex that's more expensive, but it might be the difference of 3 cents. You know, you might have $1.03, $1 and $1.03. You're not going to have $1 and $2. You know, it's going to change as it gets out of these little touchy little price points where you're splitting 10 thousandths of a dollar, right? So, and that's the thing with the perception of value is people are looking at their T-shares and they go, well, fuck T-shares. I'm getting 6 hex per day per T-share. What do I care? That's not even 6 cents.
Yeah.
I know, dude. I call that boil. I call that boil the frog.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not even sure everybody understands that terminology. That you put a frog in cold water and you boil it, it doesn't jump out. I mean, I know you understand it, John. Some of everybody else listening. It's crazy. I mean, here's some of the numbers that are crazy right now. Like if you were a dolphin right now, right, what we classify as a dolphin with over 1,000 T-shares, you are currently making rewards between $27,000 and $270,000 a year.
Yep. At
Right.
those little bitty tiny increments.
At these prices, and the sharks are making over $270,000 a year in yield. And I got to tell you, from the information I'm seeing, I know people do stuff. Yeah, there isn't some grand conspiracy that I can see. I mean, there might be some people that do some weird stuff, but generally the guys are sitting on their stuff, waiting for the bull to come.
So like at the very beginning, Crispy, we were getting 1 hex per day per T-share, and it was 0.000056. That does not sound like a lot of income.
I was pretty disappointed.
Right. So and then over time, you literally have to be in hex for 2 years to see what the rewards are. Staking for 2 years to actually really understand how it works. Because T-shares used to be 60 cents. You could get a whole T-share for 60 cents, but a T-share at the top was about $10,000, guys. So that 60-cent T-share became a $10,000 T-share, and that T-share was producing 50 cents a day, 60 cents a day. Okay? So basically, every day, that T-share was producing a whole T-share worth of hex that you bought back then. So you're in for 2 years, you can find yourself in the same situation. And that Halving thing that I was talking about, Crispy, that 2.5 years, every 2.5 years, double the cost in hex. And you got a chart to show that. So every 2.5 years, so right now, 2.5 years from now, you have a 60,000 hex for 1 T-share.
Whoa.
Okay?
Oh,
60,000 hex for 1 T-share 2.5 years from now. It started out, it was 10,000 hex per T-share. We're already 3x. We're at almost 30,000. So it's 3 times as much in hex terms for the same T-share. So if you bought the T-share back then, it only actually cost you 10,000 hex. And today, it costs you 30,000 hex. In 2.5 years from now, it costs you 60,000 hex. And what if hex is 50 cents? That is a $30,000 T-share.
Oh yeah,
it
could be more than that. Yeah.
You see? And if you have 60,000 hex for a T-share on both chains, right? It's going to be hard to have one that is $60,000 and another one that's $120,000. That's why I say that the gap is going to tighten on the 2 hexes as the prices go up, because the differential is so extreme that you would have a $60,000 hex, and if the other one was $2, you would have $120,000, T-share. I didn't mean that.
It's crazy because I don't know what the prices will do, but if we got to like a $2 T-share, this run, not $2 T-share, $2 hex on either chain, this run we could see $100,000 hex, right? $100,000 T-share.
Yeah.
Maddie, will you share this little this little
Absolutely.
spreadsheet thing real quick. So this was an analysis I was doing, and I guess I'll have to make it bigger. This is something I was doing for some of the guys on Twitter that were asking some questions. This are the Maximus DAO guys, and just looking at what we had for TShares for these. And the interesting thing is, because we can do these predictions, these models out there. All right, what led me to this direction was the question, hey, when these miners end, if the people decide to re-up, how many T-shares are they going to get? That was the question. So it kind of fits in pretty good with this conversation we were just having. And so when we look at Maxi right now, the Maxi contract has the 42,104 T-shares, and then Deci 72,507, and yada yada going down on that. And just extrapolating that out and doing the forecast, just to illustrate this for everybody, the only one that comes even tiny close to it is the Quattro Cinco. So the Quattro Cinco Maxi, if at the end, right, this is kind of funny though, at the end, if everything was restaked for Quattro Cinco, they can just get just a little tiny bit more, which isn't normally the case. And if this does happen, it would end up resetting the T-share rate and probably equalize it anyways. But this is the only one that comes close because they're getting the 10%, bigger pays better, as well as the longer pays better, the full amount. But the other ones are they're not gonna be able to get the same amount of T-shares.
Yeah, they couldn't get more T-shares.
Correct. I'm going off of, because this shows up this week, because I didn't go calculate what this one's T-share rate would be if this happened. And so the model doesn't show it, and that's what I'm saying is this will come back down.
But it would be close.
It'd be fairly close to even, right? Depending on what it is. Because if it ends up being the one that makes the change that day, it'll be dead on, right? It'll be 42,104 for the same number of days. If it was, if the share rate was already there, maybe just a little bit above it. But that's immaterial, really. I guess what I was really trying to demonstrate is just the difference in these contracts of what we're going to see.
Yeah.
And when we think, everybody thinks, that's in the future, don't worry about it. But look at this one here, base. Base ends next month, right? 5 days, right? 10-1. It had a pretty good amount of HEX staked. I mean, it's 100 million HEX. It's more HEX than I stake in a stake. And it had 5,245 T-shares. It's, if that restakes, it's down, what, 400, roughly 400. So it's like an 8% drop, 9% drop, right? And so this is what's happening year over year, which is why when I talk to people about doing T-shares, I'm trying to get them to understand, and they do, people do. You have to build your own ladders, but understand that if you that trying to do serial stakes end to end doesn't beat setting up a stake in advance as part of a ladder.
That was the innovation of the code. The T-share rate mechanism was the innovation in the code that had to work, which was it always had to pay better, and for that adjusting system, and that's part of the innovation. You've got the deferred inflationary system. You've got the T-share system. You've got the truth engine, and you've got people with their own self-sovereignty. So it's like the combination that makes HEX unique is all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is when you remove these things, you remove the efficiencies, because it is the perfect recipe. And many people have tried to clone it and move it around and say, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, and we're going to make this different. We're going to make it better. But when you screw with the recipe, that's what you get. What is the weird look, Maddie?
I am trying to search on my computer for the league's chart.
Oh, yeah. Shark is...
Crispy's got it. He's
yes,
got all the numbers.
Well, people are asking in the
top
chat,
of my head,
so
top of
it'd
my
be
head.
nice to...
It's dropped below.
Explain
It's
it.
dropped below the 10,000, 1,000. So it's basically
Yeah,
you know,
but people want to know, like, for one T-share, like, what character are you? For 10 T-shares, not just sharks and dolphins.
and that was inventive too, and that was something that Steph put together, was that gaming league, and you'll
Yeah, it
notice
was really good.
a lot of things have adopted that, and everybody's using those leagues now. Even Bitcoiners tried to borrow our whole league thing.
My
Go
my
Pulse.
list is out of date. It's
Should
the
be.
original list where there was no turtle.
Mm.
But so if
It was
so,
just
how many
but
T-shares do you
according
need
to-
to be a Poseidon?
That's 10.
Well,
Poseidon's 10.
Yeah, but Dolphin is 950.
Okay, so about 1,000.
979, technically.
Yeah, you
Oh,
just
yeah.
moved the decimal point.
Has it gone up?
Okay,
Oh,
and then
I guess it's
Yep.
on Pulse. Yeah.
okay, so that's
L1
dolphin.
Pulse.
Dolphin is like 1,000. A squid, is that the next one? Is 100. Then turtle is 10. Is that right? Crab is 1. Okay.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's all a factor of 10.
You just moved the decimal point because the Poseidon is 10%, and then whale is 1%, and then shark is 0.1%, and then it just goes down like that.
Yeah, it's all factors of 10.
Yeah.
And one of the other things we've been seeing too, before I take this off the screen for Maxi and Deci, Deci's been running at a discount to Hex on Pulse Chain, and Maxi is running at a premium. And currently, well, at least last time I checked, anyways, one Maxi equals 2 Deci on Pulse, and that creates a really interesting situation because with the Maxi contract, based on the forecast, in 15 years at the end of Quattro Cinco, per Maxi you would get 6.2 hex, but in Deci, which ends after 10 years, is just 4.14. But if you're getting two Decis for a Maxi, you really get 8.2.
Yeah.
So for the value, it's really good value. But always be careful of liquidity and how thin it is, because you can move the price against you pretty good.
Oh yeah, you can accidentally click the button and not pay attention, and someone like me end up with $30,000
A
because you
hidden gem.
bought $10 Maxi because you weren't paying attention to liquidity. What, Toby?
A hidden gem that I think a lot of people miss out on, and you were talking about it earlier, Johnny, about how the price point being where it is currently changes the dynamic. It wasn't so very long ago that anyone that was a mid-level dolphin was making $50,000+ a year in Hedron.
Yeah.
So for those people that are following the mode of stake, end your stake, scrape off your yield, sell that to live on, restake your principal, that's probably more impactful now than it will be as the price goes up, because Hedron is so many factors below the price of Hex. It's not feasible to try to live off your Hedron.
Yeah.
So I think as the price goes back up, you are going to have situations where there is so much income potential for dolphins and up in Hedron alone that they will never have to sell any of their Hex yield. They can perpetually just restake and hang on.
Well, you could LP.
Right? Yeah, there's other things you can do. Sure. Yep.
You could also
but you don't have to sell it. So you're removing that sell pressure.
You could LP,
right.
You could borrow against it.
Yep.
You could borrow against it and buy more.
Yeah.
And that pumps the price, which increases your position, which allows you to do more. There's all these different ways that you should never have to give up your whole total position, which is why, again, it's silly to look at your total balance and look at that that bothers you, because your same number of coins are there. You have the same number of ability. Are you planning? The only reason you would look at your whole balance is if you're looking to completely be out. Okay.
Yep.
And in that case, you need to look at slippage, because that number is not necessarily true, especially if you've got, 100 million plus. You're not going to get that price that's in your wallet. You're going to have to take a discount. same thing. When you drop off, this over unit thing has been driving me absolutely insane. When HEX did it, it was designed in a way to break the market cap narrative, because we were told it's never going to break a penny because market cap would be too high. Now we have all of these different things coming out with trillions of units, and the problem with having something with has such a massive amounts of units is you're in an abundance mindset where I like to describe it like you have a big bag of Jolly Ranchers, right? And when people are asking for them, you're like, oh yeah, sure, have a handful, have a handful, have a handful, and you start to get to the bottom and you start wanting to hand out less and less and less. That's kind of what it is, right? You get down to your last two, and somebody asks for one, you're looking at it like, I don't know if I want to give you one. I'd like to maybe keep these two for myself, and that's just how the brain works, right? So if you give somebody a truckload of Jolly Ranchers, they're going to sell 100 million at a time. They're going to sell 1 billion at a time. They don't even think twice about it because they're sitting on so much that they don't even think about it, right? It doesn't matter until that price hits a price point where it starts to become real for them, right? Mm-hmm. And these things with these very, very large units, it's so hard to get into the real money zone. It took us so long to get to a penny. A penny becomes real money. That is such a hard point to break, right? And then we had other things that would come out as $1, right? But the problem with that is if it goes up 10x, now you need $10 million of liquidity. You can't just have $1 million worth of liquidity. You have to now have $10 million worth of liquidity to cover that. So, these things, if you're not equipped, if you're not able to back that up, those things are not sustainable, right? So there's that concept that people, that abundance concept and that high unit evaluation where people just start dumping shit and they don't give it any value at all. But I'll tell you this, guys, we're talking about the derivatives. There's one coin you can buy that pumps all of the derivatives, right?
Yeah.
If you buy the derivative, it pumps the derivative. There's one coin you can buy that pumps all of the derivatives because
I'm not sure.
Is based off that coin.
I'm not sure which one that is.
Is it HEX?
Does it start with an
yes,
H?
It rhymes with
it
sex.
And see, that's the problem is the derivatives then become competition.
Right.
People are like, oh, I'll just buy the derivative instead. We've had people rush into the derivative. But the problem is when you do that, you're just changing the ratio between that derivative and HEX, but you're not increasing the price of that derivative. You're just changing the ratio of it between HEX, right? So that's why you get a premium. So you get the premiums, and those premiums are not generally sustainable. You need that underlying asset to increase in value for the other things to be successful. And when you remove that functionality, that liquidity, that hard locking mechanism, and you allow it to be liquid, you increase the ability for people to sell, and you increase that abundance mindset to where, oh, well, I got a bunch of these, I can let some go, right? So that's where you run into those kind of problems. And
the perpetuals don't get their Hedron.
No,
right.
No, and I was looking at, there might be a purpose for HSIs on a secondary market that might give them more value. And I kind of threw that out there for the guys, if you could leverage it for actual like USDC or DAI, and then that would actually give you a reason to use the auctions. I think the derivatives would be fine, but I think the idea of the liquidity, they're going to suffer because of the flow.
Right.
They're so easy to dump until they get close to their. So if you plan on holding them to term, you'll be fine. If you plan on actually purchasing the hold them to term, and all that functionality works correctly and everything, you'll be fine. There will be times when you can buy them at a discount or discount and stuff, and that will add up. But you have to pretty much have the mindset that you're going to hold them to term like you would a regular HEX stake to be able to actually really get the benefits of them, because you're going to have more volatility in those because they're just so much more.
That's it. Yeah, that's what I think too. I mean, you have to be prepared to hold to the end. maybe something will happen in between, but be prepared to hold to the end. Don't, you
Yep.
know, I mean, I wouldn't take that risk. Maddie, may I answer Crypto Truth
What do
in
you got?
the chat? So he or she had asked me a question about T-shares, and so I have this thesis. This is be real repetitive for you guys, 'cause I think you know this. I really do believe that T-shares will offer me the best opportunity for yield, and that's my thesis, which I'm going to work on proving. And and I say it from a risk adjusted basis. So I'll have to put all that together. But basically, the thesis is this: is for the level of risk that I have, you know, I can get the greatest amount of return consistently from HEX, and of course, it's in the form of HEX. And I'm comparing that up against things like, you know, farming, validating, LPV2. A lot of people are very interested in FUX, FHUX.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry. You know, and then there, yeah, the other protocols that are out there, and they all have varying numbers. But what I'm finding is that you have to manage those like you're a trader. Once I got past farm, everything has to be managed. If everything requires more time, it's because I can't depend on the you know, the reward rates staying in place. All right, so there's that, and then the other part of the question, as far as, well, yeah, one big thing that's been fun. I think you guys knew this already too, but you know, I knew T-share rate went up and to the right. But it was really cool to prove that it goes up into the right and see it and predict it. And then as we came into polls, I sort of knew that everything should be matched up and be the same for a while, but I really didn't know until we saw it. That when we look at the T-share rate, for instance, day over day, it's nearly identical on both chains, and will be so for quite a while, probably months or years. And so, anyways, those are some of the thoughts that I have, and I definitely believe myself that the T-share is the best thing to put, you know, my efforts into. So, thanks,
Right
Maddie.
on. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And yeah, I think some things start with that higher APY, whether it's validating or liquidity providing, but then
Yield farming.
it's not always clear that it stays there.
No.
So interesting. Do you think that validating and hex mining, do you think that those will be close to each other?
They're nowhere near close right now.
No.
How so?
It's you know, validating. Maybe Toby will have a better number. 16% and declining.
Yes.
Hex,
Because there's low volume. Because there's
Yeah.
low volume. But
yeah, okay, but there's lots more validators every day too.
Lots more. Yeah.
So they're all sharing that. So I you know, I don't know what'll happen with them. You know, that's what I mean is
and as the price goes up, there'll be even more validators because it'll be more attractive.
Well,
for Hex to work, Hex needs to be the premium store of value. It needs to be the premium yield producing store of value for it to work. You don't want the other things to be in competition with it. The
Right.
Pulse Chain network is its own separate thing, but it was again designed to create a solution to the problem that Ethereum was having, to create more capacity. And they bumped up those rates in order to incentivize people to want to run their own validators, which has worked very effectively. And we are the most decentralized network really out there. We're not ran by two mining companies, and we're not ran by the Ethereum Foundation. Richard does not run validators. Validators are all over the world, and there's 40,000 of them. And I don't know what the number is, but BNB is not anywhere, or Binance Chain is nowhere near what we got, and they own most of their servers too. So it really is the open source chain that is truly decentralized with validators everywhere. And like I said, nobody's knocking on everybody's door in all these countries and shutting down every single one of those validators, so we ain't going nowhere. And a lot of
Well,
people do it just to support the network, because it's part of being part of something, right? You know,
Yes, sir. That's
it
why I'm
makes you
doing
feel
it.
good to be part of that network, doesn't it, Toby?
It does. It does. I'm happy about it, except when it's storming like now, and it makes me a little nervous about my power
Don't flash
situation.
me. Don't flash
Well,
me.
you guys are much more generous than the Ethereum fair miners.
Yikes!
Oh,
I don't even.
yeah, the ones that cut us off. Yeah.
Yeah. So thanks for that. And I guess that settles it. I guess Hex is the premium store of value on the blockchain, and
Pick
volatility
whichever one you
turns out
like,
to
and you
be
can
an
buy them both on
opportunity.
PulseX.
And well, great. I'm pumped up. I think I learned a lot from this stream.
I
What
reloaded
other?
my dry powder while we were on stream, so
wow.
I will be
That's
happily exit liquidity, as I've been for 4 years now, for anyone that wants to dump at these levels. So
that's some OG Tuesday night energy.
Happy
That's some
trading,
OG.
everyone.
That's some OG stuff there.
Yeah.
All right, trivia question for you, Matt, as we get off. I think I already said it out loud, but how many addresses hold Hex? Doesn't matter which chain, all together worth $1 million or more.
180.
185. 185. That means mining and or liquid on either chain. Add them up. It's actually a lower number than I thought, but very bullish at the same time. Very bullish at the same time. And quite a few of those. They haven't moved in 2 years, 3 years.
Yeah, I know. I think I got 20 of them on my phone.
Nice.
A few
So
of them might be in this room right now, a matter of fact.
So ChrispyMan did an excellent 15-minute stream earlier today about that, which is how I knew the number off the top of my head. And I would recommend people go check out his channel. It's youtube.com/hexfire.io.
IO. Hexfire IO.
Just remember, guys, no fear porn. Stay away from things that are going to get people upset and worked up. Sometimes information overload can be too much for people and their default fear, and they cave, and they're going to wish they hadn't caved. The green candles are going to come. This is a cycle. We've dipped. This has been the worst, nastiest dip we've ever seen, and it's probably the worst, nastiest dip anybody's ever seen. Nobody's actually down 99%, because we've been down more than we've been up. And if you've been buying this whole time, you shouldn't be down 90%, right? The code hasn't changed. The code is the code. It still does what it's supposed to do. It always has. The green candles will come. New people will not know your pain. They will come in from their perspective and from their position, and those new prices are going to be normal to them. So
you want to hear something that'll blow your mind? I'll add this to you. So if you had gone through all of our unofficial training and you learned all about this protocol in Hex, and you decided you were just going to do the simplest thing ever, and just every week DCA. $50 a week into Hex, you would have Hex on 2 chains, total value about $75,000 today. If you just held it liquid. If you staked it, which would have been the rest of that, and let's just say you did the average right around six years, you would have invested a total of $10,000. You would have been holding liquid something around $70,000 today at these prices. And then you'd have over $215,000 or so dollars worth of mining Hex.
Wow.
Prime.
So everybody that thinks they can outsmart it, a bot would have beat you, because the average of the prices, average of the time that the prices are down are way more than the time that the prices are up. And that's what people don't get. The bull market is a couple months.
It's if that sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. A bull market is a couple months. It's a small frame of time. And that's why you don't measure from the top down and make yourself all miserable, counting paper gains that were possibly never even able to be cashed out at those levels. You need to look at your investment how much you have of your money in it, and then where you're at today, and whether or not you want to add to your position, if you're comfortable adding to your position or not. But really what it comes down to is, how much do I have in? How do I reduce my break-even point? And then that is what your real true realized gains could be.
I got a real world example of that, Johnny, from just today. One of my onboards got in at 46 cents, spent $2,000 to get that. I think she spent about $2,000 to get about 5,000 hex, something like that. And today, 100,000 hex was $342, and it effectively lowered her break even from 46 cents to 1.8 cents.
Yeah, so this is something people also
for
need
$300
to understand, is it doesn't reduce it by 50%. It reduces it dramatically when you're able to dial our cost at the lower prices. Crypto Coffee's got a real good video on this. I heard Crispy, I don't know if you covered that in a previous video too, but Crypto Coffee's got one where he covered basically $100 a week. And if you were a bot would outbeat your trading. It does show you that holding does work. It does show you that staking does work. And, you cannot beat yourself up looking at yesterday's sales ads, right?
100%.
And if you want to dump all of your hex all at once, it's just like taking your comic books to a pawn shop. If you don't ration them out and sell them one at a time, and you just take everything you got and dump it, well, guess what? You're stuck with a price that you get. And it's not going to be anywhere near the value that you could have occurred if you would have just took your time and took what you need as you need it.
Do you know what's more regrettable than not selling a top? Not buying
a bottom.
Not buying a bottom. Because the thing is like, I remember, in the heyday when we were, rushing to all-time highs, being able to pull up my staker app and talk to onboards and show them a stake that cost me $100 that was worth well into the six figures.
Yep.
And we're back to those levels.
Yep.
Those opportunities are there. And, for people to say, well, Hex can't do another 10,000X. You know what?
It can now.
It can now. It can now. I mean, literally, what's that put Hex at? Like on eHex, what's the math on that? Does that work out to like $3? No, $38?
$30.
Yeah.
Nobody ever, are you going to go back and buy Bitcoin for 50 cents? Are you going to go back and buy it for $1? Are you going to go back and buy it for $10? You're going to go back and buy it for $100.
If you buy the DeLorean, you can.
Dude, oh man, you make me laugh. I didn't buy.
Maddie wants to buy the dip. Bro.
I didn't buy Amazon for $1, and I didn't buy Apple for $4. And
yeah,
I didn't buy Tesla for $12. I mean,
we don't know where it's going to go.
Let's make the list.
We don't know where it's going to go. We don't know how high it can go. Nobody, the Greg guy.
I think it's going to zero. Like everybody needs to sell immediately.
Yeah,
especially since I have dry powder again.
Especially, if you could just go ahead and make sure you keep it down at the end of October. November, early November, last week of November.
And for people that don't know, this is like the heyday for Johnny's industry. It's like Halloween is the gravy train. Like the business I used to be in, it was winter. Like if there was a lot of snow, boy, I was swimming in it. So I mean, that was like prime time for me. October, this is Johnny's month. So it's like, if we can just keep the prices down until like first week of November, something like that. Let him shift some stuff around, and then he can buy the dip, and then Johnny will make the bottom for us. Because it won't be going back down after Johnny unloads.
And don't misconstrue that. I do hear people go, well, Johnny's the Halloween guy. Johnny's had 20 years of product development, bringing things into the real world and problem solving. Everything from building surgical trainers that were featured at the world's largest medical conventions, creating the world's first kidney that is X-rayable, ultrasoundable, and endoscopable for surgical trainers. The world's first emergency thoracotomy trainer, which unfortunately did not make it to market, but it was built and designed by me. So I've done a lot of things and a lot of problem solving and bringing things into the world that don't exist yet. And my job has been to follow through on everything I say that I'm going to do, unlike the crypto industry that doesn't follow through on shit and then just collects everybody's money and walks away. So my career has been to bring real world things into the real world, and I've been in product development for 20 years and problem solving. So I kind of have an idea on how systems work and where points of failure are, and I have that type of mind. I've been building things since I was a kid, so that's
your
kind
work's
of my
fantastic.
background. But I'm not going to fluff myself up or anything. But it's kind of it's kind of really cute to me.
It's
kinda
warranted.
Really cute
Like
to me
if
when
people, I
like,
mean,
you don't know.
if people
We
have
get
not
it.
seen your work, they need to check it out. Johnny's an absolute artist. Like with the stuff that he creates, it's remarkable. And I know people that are in like the haunt industry and stuff, and it's like Johnny's top notch.
The haunt
no
industry
joke.
is a $6.9 billion industry in ticket sales per year.
Yeah.
There are over
That's awesome.
65 sanctioned haunted houses in Michigan alone.
Mhm.
So, there's money to be made, and it doesn't have to be in the movies. And to let you know, medical pays a lot better. So
if you really want to be scared, just buy more Hex.
So why don't we do? Hey,
That'll
Johnny,
touch
why
it.
don't?
Ooh.
Yeah, you want to really be scared? Johnny, let's catch up. We'll do a Halloween-ish stream.
That would be great, dude.
Tell
That'd be
you
fun.
about my ghost hunting days, my EMF detector, and my app on my
Nice.
phone that converts ghostly words.
Don't cross the streams, Crispy.
That's
Don't
good.
cross
one of
streams,
the one of
right?
the coolest things, guys, was I was at a casino and I was talking to a dealer that was talking about the carpal tunnel surgery that they had, and I asked him. I said, okay, so did they do an incision here, or did they have a device that they placed here and it popped out here? They flipped a little switch and made a little saw. And they're like, oh yeah, that was it. And it's like it healed up in like a couple weeks. And I was like, that's awesome. That's the Manus device. And they said, well, how would you know that? I said, because I built the trainer that they used to demonstrate that on at the medical convention to market that particular procedure to surgeons. So, that your surgeon was probably trained on my device. And that was kind of cool to know that. So it was really neat. And the design was fairly simple, but what you had to simulate was you had to simulate the tendons in that area so that when the surgeon was doing the procedure, they could feel that pop, right? So it had replaceable cartridges that were inserted into the palm of the hand of this fake dummy hand, and then they could take that and throw it away once they were done with it. Insert another cartridge, which was great because this was a renewable commodity.
Yeah, right.
So we got renewable
Yeah.
sales on this. So every time
Yeah.
they trained a surgeon, they had to pop one of these suckers out and pop it back in. So that's what's really neat. Buy patents,
Nice.
Johnny. Well, here's the thing, guys. I worked for other companies with non-compete clauses and such. So, and I'm not paying $20,000 for a patent or $20,000 to $50,000 for a patent because someone like me is able to take somebody else's thing, change 5 points of variance, and then we're around patenting laws. So where does Johnny's legal expertise come from? Oh, I don't know. Maybe working around patenting laws, right? Because I've reversed engineered a lot of things too. We would get products from other things and figure out how to improve them and make them better too. So sometimes things don't exist at all. Sometimes things that exist that are close. And sometimes we're able to take those things and repurpose, reuse, and rework to improve. So.
Well, we appreciate you bringing your real world experience into the crypto scene, and the problem solving and insights that you have, I think, are verifiably useful to people. So thank you for that. Just an announcement for people who are looking for more content after this. I invented a way to do a price lock in Time Pays Me using the behavior validator mechanism. So go watch my stream after we're done here if you want to learn more about that. It was the topic of Hex Therapy Live this past week. I did a price lock for ink to where I sent the behavior validator code to some people. And so my goal is that if ink goes to $100 per coin, then then my coins will become unlocked and I'll be able to sell. And then I did one where I locked $100 worth of DAI to be unlocked if the price of ink drops below 50 cents, so I can buy the dip. So those are some examples of how people can be using, using the truth engine in crypto, using the tools that are out there for programmable money. So check that out here.
So if you don't have the fortitude for actual diamond hands, you have a method to synthesize that. So
it occurred to me last week on this show when we had somebody asking in the comments whether you could do a price lock on Time Pays Me. And I was about to say, no, of course not, you idiot. And then I realized like, oh, actually, yeah, you can. And it's live now with the behavior locking. So it's just cool stuff to keep in mind on the cutting edge here of crypto. And next week, we're going to have another special guest. I figure we'll keep asking special guests to come on until we get a new all-time high in everything here.
Sweet.
But we're going to have Dip Catcher on next week.
Prices down until October is over, okay?
Oh,
Prices are going up. They're going up. They're not going down.
Who knows? But
Dip Catcher next week. I like that, dude.
It's going to be exciting. So
we'll catch
and
it.
No, I didn't make those aliens. I got people asking me, did Johnny make those aliens? No, those sucked.
Oh, those little,
like
those little
Johnny could have done way better.
The ones that were found in Peru, the little Peruvian ones.
Yeah.
They're so cute.
They're
so cute.
Paper mache, man.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm a believer. They tested them. It's 30% of it. 30% of the DNA is unidentifiable. See, that's proof right there.
Guess what? I could put chemicals in the DNA to make it unidentifiable too.
Where can people find you guys?
I can treat leather so it shows up with some random chemicals in it too. You know what else I can do? I can make bones that are X-rayable and ultrasoundable too. You know what?
There you go.
Like, I build this shit, so to me that's like, this looks like some kid made it in their basement.
Yeah. And there's no alien mummies either.
Yeah, it's silly.
All right, Maddie, you asked me a question. So YouTube, HexFire.io.
And on Patreon too, I suppose.
Yep, you can go find the Patreon link and find me over HexFire.io on Patreon, HexFire.io on the X, the big X.
Beautiful.
I am mostly found on X at Tobiwan_Hexobi. I'm no longer doing the daily TA updates, but occasionally I'll throw some out there. The charts are looking juicy right now, which might be an indication of why I just reloaded the dry powder. So buy the dips.
Don't tell them to buy the damn dips. Sell.
Oh, that's right.
Buy
the dip. I mean, actually, wait. Let me. When I look at it again, the chart's actually not going to bottom until like the end of October. So I would just wait, and then buy the dip in November.
What's left?
And Johnny, where can we find you?
Oh,
buying the dip
FX
in October.
Studios on X, I suppose.
Twitching. He's twitching.
Awesome. We've got that in the description below, so follow everybody here. You can find all my stuff on allmylinks.com/allin. You can find the DeLorean that I have for sale on Twitter. And thanks everybody for sharing that out. Until next time, stake wisely, my friends, and peace out.
Peace. Stay crispy. There you go.
Nice.
Nice.
Good.